everybody. Welcome to Impossible Coin. I am Brian Cartwright, and I am joined today by Ohio's finest, Tegan Somerset.
Yay! I can't believe I'm the finest in Ohio.
From what I understand, there's some real problems fundamentally with Ohio.
I mean, yeah.
And so the fact that you shoot for excellence means that you're clearing the fucking bar.
I have also not only left the state, but also left the country. Technically, I've been to 7 different countries. So, good for me for getting the fuck out of the Midwest, at least. Fuck this place. Nothing happens here. Ohio has the most astronauts. We want to leave.
All right. So, we're going to talk about the difference between treason and sedition. Treason is the crime of betraying one's country, especially by attempting to kill the sovereign or overthrow the government.
Fine.
Okay.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Sedition is conduct or speech inciting people to rebel against the authority of the state.
Okay.
Giving a tour of the fucking Capitol building, telling people what's the fastest way to get from one spot to another is inciting them to rush the Capitol building.
I see. Because the idea is that person who is giving the tour, who is already in a position of power, would then retain that position of power, as opposed to overthrowing the current people in power.
Right.
I see.
Right. So the people who do the rushing and were attempting to kill members of the House of Representatives and hang Mike Pence were treasonous, but the people who walked them around the building were seditious.
I see. Okay. I got it.
Isn't it very exciting that we live in a world so terrible that we get to now understand these distinctions well?
You know what, Brian? Within the last 4 years, I have learned so much more about how our government works and doesn't work than I ever thought I would need to know as an ordinary citizen.
So, this is a take. Assuming that everything goes well, right? That, America survives this tumultuous time. Trump may have actually been the best thing to happen to American democracy since, World War II.
You are right. That is a take.
Yeah.
Oof. I don't like to admit that you're probably right, but you're probably right.
In my youth, there was a lot of talk, especially, where I live, which is, 33% a military town, is that the people fight for your freedom so you don't have to worry about them. And that always felt dumb to me. If I don't know what freedoms that I've been given, right? If I don't understand them, how do I know when someone starts to take them away from me? And worse,
right.
What if I don't know what to do when they start acting this way? Our democracy needed to, endure a existential threat. And the key word here is endure. Because if it fails to endure the existential threat, then American democracy is fucked. But assuming that we make it through, we will now have an electorate and a population that is much more in tune with the freedoms and protections that we have and the things that we need to do to protect them.
Yeah, I'm with it. I'm very with it.
I see.
So, one thing that I wanted to keep track of, I thought that there were 2 points of view on the Republicans who voted for impeachment that I thought were both mostly useless viewpoints.
Mm-hmm.
Useless viewpoint 1 is none of these people voted for impeachment the first time. Fuck them kids.
Yeah.
And then the second one is fawning all over. Oh, look at you. Look at you. Look at you. You're impeaching. Blah, blah, blah. I think that neither one of these are useful. I don't want to pat them on the head and give them
a cookie?
I'm not stroking their horns for this.
Gotcha.
But there are additional things that they could do above and beyond simply voting for impeachment that would make me happy. And so I read with interest the comments made on the House floor by each one of them when they cast their ballot.
Mm-hmm.
The one Republican who voted to impeach, who did the thing, The president took an oath to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Last week there was a domestic threat at the door of the Capitol. He did nothing to stop it. My party and myself personally failed this nation in not condemning and not acting against President Trump earlier in his administration. For that, I can only offer you my personal apology.
Ooh, I like that.
Right. So, like, every one of the other ones who voted to impeach was like, yeah, fuck him, he's a monster. I'm like, well, no shit, we all know he's a monster. But, like, the thing is that, like, there have been people who have been at varying levels, complicit with his actions. And someone standing up and saying, like, I have been complicit, I have been wrong, I fucked up, we fucked up. That was what I was looking for. I am willing to jump off from a point of personal introspection and reflection on failure. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I wanted. That's why I bothered to read the floor remarks from all 10 of them. Did any of you say the thing? One of you said the thing. That was Brian's big, which has nothing to do with the best video games of 2020. So maybe Representative Newhouse could fly to fucking Poland, pull up a chair, like, hey, CD Projekt Red, have you guys considered coming to Jesus?
Have you guys considered personal accountability? I tried it, and let me tell you what.
The other thing that, like, just absolutely gave me a stroke this week, the new Congress has 2 members in it who are, no shit, out proud adherents to the QAnon conspiracy. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
People who believe that the Democratic Party is legitimately a sex cult which eats and fucks children. They are a cannibal pedophile sex ring. They believe that. I think that if you believe a person that you work with is a cannibal pedophile, that should probably disqualify you from working with them.
Especially if there's, like, no actual basis for that.
Right.
You know?
Sure.
If there was evidence, like, children go missing around this person, and no one is investigating it because they're in a seat of power, that'd be a different story, but that's not what happens.
I mean, I get that, but, like, Congress, I feel like, fundamentally is allowed to be antagonistic with coworkers because you represent different interests.
Oh, sure. Let's take the automotive industry, for example. Like, people who represent districts in the state of Michigan have an interest in keeping the automotive industry happy because that, in turn, will keep their voters happy. And so they are inclined to view legislation from a viewpoint of, does this keep the big 3 happy?
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be a prism through which they view the world.
Sure.
But these 2 fucking people, the prism through which they view the world is believing that half of their day-to-day coworkers in the House of Representatives are inviting each other to, like, kid barbecues. Like, hey, you want to come over for a molest and a barbecue? Like, what the fuck? I don't think you can believe that about people and work effectively with them, even in an antagonistic fashion.
No, I agree about that. But here's the thing. The way I see it, and I might be wrong, but all that does is reflect badly on, like, the state that chose them. If the state votes in QAnon people to their house and they're going to be focused on their QAnon shit and antagonize half of their workers, all that tells me is that because they're not going to be able to work with anyone, they're not going to get anything done on behalf of their state. So as a result, they should waste a bunch of the state's money, and the electorate should vote that person out and get someone who will represent their interests more effectively.
Oh, yeah. Even if what they end up doing is getting themselves another fucking Republican, like, at least get a Republican who does not believe that there is a satanic baby-eating sex cult.
Right.
Like, holy shit.
There's no way that's effective. That's something for an electorate to learn. I'm not sure if that's something that should be, like, disqualified at the base level. I mean, there are issues with that, like, the whole Tea Party thing where, like, I don't know what, they got, like, 20, 30 House members and a couple senators or some shit. But they also failed to get much of anything done. They definitely unseated, like, the establishment to no meaningful change.
It's weird because I've done a lot of reading in the past week on, like, various congressional caucuses, like, and how many people are members of individual caucuses, which caucuses publicly disclose their membership, which caucuses do not disclose their membership, and so on. Mm-hmm. Which is when I started to learn about like the difference between like the Tea Party and Freedom Caucus.
Oh yeah, the fucking Freedom Caucus.
Right. You know, the best way to like describe the difference between the Tea Party and the Freedom Caucus is like you discover that the Tea Party caucus is not batshit insane enough for you.
Right.
You have even less of a fundamental understanding of how our government works. Mm-hmm. And, like, you just have this, like, weird fetishized view of, like, bald eagles, and you talk about gold coins in this, like, weirdly aroused voice. Like, you're one of those people. You probably talk about how, like, Rush Limbaugh is the greatest American in the last 60 years. Like, it's weird, like, just knowing, like, all of these, like, different subtle shifts of the, like, conservative political movement in the United States, because there are people who are definitely one and not the other and that kind of thing, and then jump from one to the other. That's also kind of important. Mm-hmm. Ted Cruz definitely was like, you know, like, Tea Party's not crazy enough, and went and joined himself the Freedom Caucus.
Yeah.
Rip. Yeah. But at least Ted Cruz does not believe that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are spit-roasting 6-year-olds. Christ almighty George. And so, like, I anxiously followed our 2 new Q Congress people being like, how long is it going to take for one of them to be massively and colossally fucking stupid in the National Square? How long is it going to take? Don't worry, it's already happened, Rocky.
Wow!
So your 2 Q Congress people are Lauren Boebert of Colorado and Marjorie Taylor Greene from Georgia.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So Marjorie Taylor Greene...
Wait, Colorado?
Yes.
Yep.
That doesn't seem right. I mean, I get it, but it doesn't seem right.
It's weirdly conservative sometimes.
Huh.
It's one of those things where, like, agricultural Colorado is conservative.
Right.
Okay.
Urban Colorado is, like, pretty hard left, and ag Colorado is pretty hard right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Even though they can grow weed now.
Even though they can grow weed now.
Huh, all right.
Right. So, Marjorie Taylor fucking Greene literally sauntered to the floor of the House and started to make remarks wearing a face mask.
Oh, the censored mask.
Yes, that is this person.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm like, you fucking idiot. And, like, what she chose to say while wearing the mask is so special.
The mask that's censored on the floor of the House on television across the United States?
Yeah.
Right.
That censored mask.
Yeah.
What a fucking idiot.
Oh, yeah. Sumptuous. But what she said while wearing the censored mask was that on January 21st, she is going to introduce an article of impeachment for Joe Biden.
On what grounds?
Is it the baby eating?
It is not the baby eating. I hope somebody sits her down and is like, Marjorie, I don't know how to tell you this, and I don't know if anybody's ever told you this before in your life, but you're a fucking idiot. Like, because the number of members of the House who are Republicans who went from supporting challenging the results of the Electoral College dropped by over half after the fucking invasion of the Capitol building.
Yeah, because they went, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah, I'm like, whoops.
Those were the ones who weren't leading tours of the fucking Capitol building. They were going, oh, wait a minute, I thought this was just rhetoric. What are you doing?
And so I am here to go ahead and put a number on it. So listeners, you will be able to see whether Brian, the prognosticator, is correct on Thursday. I'm calling it now. I'm going to go ahead and say 65. 65 Republicans will sign on with this. And every one of them should be roasted hardcore. There is no better way to distinguish how that caucus is divided. It's like to see, like, okay, you know, check on the 21st, folks. See if Brian is right. Send us your overs and unders.
Make a Twitter poll, Brian.
That is a good idea.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Brian's in charge of the Twitter now.
Mm-hmm.
I will make a Twitter poll. Yeah. So, you guys want to talk about video games?
Yeah, man.
I mean, yeah, I'd love to hear you guys talk about video games.
Tegan?
as we know, Brian, as we discussed last week, I only played like fucking 6 games this year.
Tegan?
Yeah. Yes,
Figure it
Brian.
out.
Figure what out? I didn't play anything. Brian, I was depressed. Spent time on my mental health.
It's good that you spent time on your mental health.
Yeah. I like my therapist. She's funny.
Brian, there's a game here.
What's up?
There's a game here that you mentioned in passing, but you seemed pretty excited about. Can you tell me a bit about Carto?
Yeah. Let me tell you about Carto.
Please do. What the fuck? What is it?
Carto is a game which has a primary puzzle mechanic of being able to rearrange the tiles of the map of the world. You will have a situation where you'll encounter something where like some conditions will be described, and then with the tiles that you have available, you'll need to figure out a way to rearrange those available tiles to recreate the conditions that you discover or are described to you. Very early in the game, like a good example is you come across a woman who is outside of her cabin, and she says, are you looking for my husband? He's fishing at the south end of the lake. And so if you reassemble the tiles so that way the entire space of the lake is represented within the tile set, and you are not currently standing in the tile which is at the south end, you can then put it together and then walk down to that tile and discover her husband, even if you've already stood in that tile before, because now the way the world is arranged, the truth is he's there.
Ah, okay. So it kind of sounds like it's similar to Baba Is You.
Yes.
But you play with the world a little bit differently.
Right. With Baba Is You, the solution to like every puzzle is being like a series of binary switches.
Right.
And so it's just like discovering the right configuration of yeses and nos in the right sequence to create your solution. In some Baba Is You levels, there are multiple, binary configurations which can get you to a solution. But like as you progress through the game, like the options become more and more refined and there are less available solutions per level.
Mm-hmm.
But with this, there's more subtlety, there's more gray area. Like part of the whole story of the game is that like you're getting on this boat with this person because like this culture has this tradition that at like 16, you get on a boat to go sail across the sea and leave your family forever. You have to set out, start your family, like go somewhere, settle, like establish a home and turn away from your home. So there's like a part of the game where you're like preparing to set out for that journey and you're going with someone. Because your character is not part of this culture, you're kind of like wandering around.
Okay, like an anthropologist or something.
You're more like you're a guest. Like you're
okay.
kind of like and so there's somebody who's like setting out on their journey, and they're like, I'm going, but I think it's going to be really lonely, so I would like to go with someone. Will you come with me? A central part of the game is like getting this person ready to go, accomplishing the things that they need to do before they leave. And so, like, there's things that you can do to, like, change the quality of the soil so that way you can get them good potting soil to, like, pack in bags to, like, take on their boat. Or you can, like, do things that will affect how the sea is going to look tomorrow. And, like, a lot of the solutions are a lot more subtle. And one of the other things which is central to the experience of the game is not necessarily just, like, solving these puzzles as they come up, but also, like, exploring the map as you like reconfigure it, because that'll allow you to discover new map pieces. So like the world gets bigger as you explore, so which incentivizes exploring even if you are touching tiles that you've touched before, and then being like, oh, okay, well now I have more tools to solve more puzzles. Like you might encounter like a puzzle and not have enough tiles to like for the solution that you thought of, but you can, go wandering and see if you can discover any more tiles or solve any other puzzles that might net you tiles as part of a reward.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely like narratively very linear, but because of the way you interact with the space, it feels like the most constrained, disciplined open world game you've ever experienced. Because you're always exploring spaces which are like unfamiliar to you because of the way it makes you interact with the space. You know that feeling you would get in Breath of the Wild when you got to a new area, but you hadn't yet cleared the tower for it?
Yeah.
It's very much like that feeling. It felt good to like discover things were true, and then once they were true, I could change something about them fundamentally. Like, okay, well, once I make him fishing at the south end of the lake, I can move his position in relation to the lake because it only needed to be true to discover him. He doesn't have to be at the south end of the lake anymore. Now I can be at the west end of the lake because I found him once, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. I liked the way it interacted with puzzle solving. Plus, the look of the game is really cute. It has a really good art style and like very like sweet and light music. So it's definitely like a good just like hang out and chill for like an evening or two kind of game. You could punch it out in about like I'd say like 6 to 8 hours, and it's time well spent. Yeah. Rocky, would you like to tell me about No More Heroes?
Yeah, sure. I kind of wish I'd spent more time with it before we got here, but No More Heroes, again, is very old, but still a very good video game. For people who don't know, it's been like 10 years. It's the story of Travis Touchdown. He decides to become a world-renowned assassin and murder a bunch of dudes so he can get laid or whatever. But the game is very straightforward and very stylish. They make a lot of choices. Like Travis Touchdown's weapon of choice is actually a beam katana, which is essentially a lightsaber. He rides a motorcycle around town. He does odd jobs. He's surly, curses, and murders without restraint.
Doesn't sound very nice.
No, he's not a nice dude, but he's definitely cool. Even though a lot of the things that he does now are essentially cringe. It's very much a product of its time, but the game still holds up. Gameplay is simple and satisfying, and on top of that, there are layers of variety to your interaction with experiences. Like there's a early level where you have to storm a baseball stadium to get to your next target, and you end up fighting a bunch of goons. And when there's like 3 or 4 of them in a room by themselves, you could run up and fight them, but they're going to throw baseballs at you first, and your beam katana now functions as a baseball bat. You can swing the ball back and knock down a couple of them to like call their numbers before you actually fight them.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of like little things that are silly and over the top that way. I mean, eventually like that level culminates in a fight in an empty baseball stadium against a cowboy cosplayer who fights with golden 6-shooters. And you learn, because you have to pay a fee to the organization to orchestrate the fight, that your fee went to a spa day for him and an elaborate dinner with his estranged daughter who wants nothing to do with him because, he's a terrible father. And so there's a lot of like story and like personality that's like injected into this game, but it doesn't bog you down with it really. You kind of do stuff and it moves on and like it takes its moment and it leaves. It's still pretty cringe, but like, so was most of the early 2000s, so I'm not mad at it. I decided to touch it again because I picked up ports to Switch for No More Heroes and its sequel, No More Heroes 2, in anticipation of the third installment, No More Heroes 3, which will come out later this year. I think it's still a very good video game and a great way to like interact with like the action combat genre, to be honest. And the writing is still fun as long as you're willing to put up with the same amount of cringe that it would take to watch something like I don't know, How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days.
Oof, okay.
Yeah. Its design is very like clean and mobile and free. Some of the better moments isn't actually when anyone's talking or when you're slashing up a bunch of dudes, but like when you're cruising through town on your motorcycle, or like when you step into a new shop and like you can, put on some new clothes and see what Travis Touchdown looks like in different types of shit. It's a good game. I'm not done with it, at least this particular playthrough. I wish I was deeper in it because I'd have a bit more to talk about, but I like it so far, just not too much.
It definitely very much is a product of its time.
Mm-hmm.
Did playing it leave you with any particular nostalgia for that period of game development?
A little. No More Heroes was definitely a Wii exclusive when it came out, and one of the things that it did really well was like really lean into the type of innovations that were capable with the Wii, like motion control combat. There was like a fluid mixture of like sword slashes, but also like wrestling moves, which were like designed to like work with both the nunchuck and like the Wii remote at the same time. Also, it took use of the Wii remote speaker and allowed you to like cosplay Travis Touchdown, where the phone calls with audio would come through the controller. So you could act like you were holding it up to your ear like a phone. And that was a neat thing to do that is almost completely lost in this current like time. It reminds me of like when you were talking a couple months ago about how a lot of people who developed for the PS4 decided not to make use of the microphone that was inside the PS4 controller.
Yeah.
It was definitely a product of its time, which like dates it in various ways, but it also like shows like a specific level of like commitment and like creativity that feels a bit lost in the current state, for better or for worse. I mean, now we get a lot more multi-platform stuff, so it, like one size fits all is probably a better way to develop things. But this particular game was something that was designed for the Wii and would feel different if it was played anywhere else.
It's so wild because, like, thinking back to like that era, it's so crazy to think that like that the Wii and the Xbox 360 are at this point 15 fucking years old.
Yeah, wild, right?
Like, yeah, like I know, right?
Turn me into dust, Brian. Jesus. You and Alex are just coming for me right now. I don't appreciate it. Being assaulted on all fronts.
Oh, Lord. But then there's stuff from that time period which now, like, is evocative of a time and a place. Like, it's so weird to, like, think about, like, the stuff that, like, Microsoft has been doing with, say, the Gears of War franchise, where it kind of feels like they've been running from that 2006 look of Gears of War.
Yeah.
I'm now sitting here wondering, like, is that the wrong choice? There is a generation of kids who grew up with that generation of consoles, you know, as their first consoles, and are now people who are buying their first video game machines with their own money and, like, are going to look back on that generation with nostalgia. And those, like, big, giant, beefy dudes and Travis Touchdown are probably, you know, along with Wii Bowling, some of the biggest visual icons of that entire generation.
Yeah.
That's... Yeah. Do you think that's a thing that, like, having constant new versions of, like, Doom Guy, and is that something that they're trying to address by still keeping those games in a similar format? Or do you think it has more to do with, like, how hardware was utilized?
So, like, I mean, characters iterate over time. Like, Link and Mario are really great examples. Like, there's nearly a dozen different, like, models of, like, Mario over time.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, it definitely iterates with hardware, but there are definitely, like, small details that have shifted over the years that make characters look and feel different.
Like how Pikachu lost a bunch of weight?
Yeah! Like, fucking, like, OG, like, red-blue Pikachu, the, like, little chubby rascal.
Chonker.
Is, like...
A huge chonker.
Looks like nothing like what it is now. And, like, it's, you know, for better or for worse, like, it's just one of those things where, like, you could look at it, like, throughout the time, and, like, there isn't a question whether or not it's Pikachu. So, like, it doesn't feel like a new character, but, like,
right.
Mid-90s Pikachu isn't exactly, like, 2010s Pikachu. You know the difference, but it's all Pikachu or whatever. And, like, that's not just hardware.
Yeah, mid-90s Pikachu's an asshole and he's fat. But early 2010s Pikachu is sassy and, like, way fucking skinnier.
Skinny legend Pikachu.
I mean, when you're trying to carry an entire franchise, you know, I guess that's enough exercise for one monster, you know?
I don't like defending Ash Ketchum, but the man is definitely jacked. If he wanted to carry the series, I figure he could.
Fair.
Yeah.
Fair and valid.
So you would say Ash is jacked and not shredded?
I wish I could say he was just shredded, because he is cut. Like, that's confirmed. Like, I've seen the action figures. But he has more than a couple of feats that confirm that he is jacked. He is on the juice.
He picks up Pokemon that should be, like, near impossible to pick up.
He swung a whole tree. A whole tree!
He did.
Not supposed to be able to do that. He's supposed to be 10. Like everyone else. Fuck.
He just picked up a Tyranitar, or, like, what is it, a Larvitar? The baby Tyranitar, which is supposed to be like 400 fucking pounds. Like, he just carried it around like it was nothing.
Yeah, he did not care. Wait, hold on. Larvitar's 400 pounds, so that means, like, 2 Larvitars weigh about as much as, like, a Wailord? That's kind of amazing.
Yeah, something like that. Wailord, I saw a TikTok about this today. Wailord is less dense than air.
That's why it floats.
Let me see. It should float in the air, though, not just, like, not in the ocean. Yeah. It should be unable to swim, essentially, because it won't be able to touch the ground.
Oh my god, that's really funny.
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry. I overestimated the Larvitar. Larvitar is only 158.7 pounds.
Still a lot. Kids shouldn't be able to pick that up without trouble.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Pupitar is like 336 pounds, so like, I'm not far off, but I am off.
Fucking Pupitar, god damn it.
I had to correct myself before the Pokemon stands came into our comments. I had to do it.
Brian, you have another C game for us?
I do. Yeah. This one is a lot stickier, smellier, and meatier.
Sure.
Yeah, this one is Carrion.
Oh, gross.
Which said, hey, friend, would you like to play Metroid as a fucking Metroid?
We said yes.
I am well past the point of fatigue, generally at this point, with like pixel graphics that seem to have their primary motivation be like, hey guys, will there be less development overhead if our game looks this way? And will we be able to like simultaneously use less development resources and also scratch 40-year-olds and nostalgia bugs?
You definitely kissed a couple frogs.
Mm-hmm.
But yes. And so like Carrion was like, hi friend, like this is Metroid, but you're the Metroid, and also it's pixel art. Like, all right, you've got a hill to climb here. And the sound design in this game is fucking great.
Mm-hmm.
The horrible strangled wailing screams of everybody as you kill them is chef's kiss.
How about the schlorp sounds as you navigate the hallways, the more like blood and nastiness you become?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh yeah. Like,
Hold on, I have a question. I didn't play Carrion. I have a question.
Yes.
These sounds that you guys are talking about sound very much in the vein of definitely Invader Zim, maybe a bit of Cow and Chicken. Would you feel the same way about those sounds?
I would say, all right, have you ever seen The Thing directed by John Carpenter?
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay. For sure.
I also don't like cow and chicken. That's a personal issue, but I did not mind the sounds in this game.
Fair enough.
If they were in cow and chicken, I would be upset.
There's something really, really like satisfying about when your big, meaty, pulsy mass is like large enough.
I don't like it when you phrase it that way. I know exactly what you're talking about. I still don't like it.
I'm sorry, Tegan, in the interest of accuracy, I
Yeah,
must call it big.
I know.
Yeah,
I don't have to be happy about it, though.
it's true.
Go on, talk about your big, meaty, pulsy mass.
No, it's not. Tegan, look, Tegan, this is not a dick joke. You are the one who just made like
I did it on purpose.
Lord.
You are welcome. Someone was gonna do it. It may as well be me.
You are also absolved, Brian.
All right, so it's not just the scream sounds, which are good, but like the actual like picking somebody up and just like beating them against like a ceiling or floor before you eat them. Those sounds are so good. The weird, gross sounds you make as you like plop out of like various like checkpoints that exist around like the large Metroidvania style map. There's this like terrible plop noise that makes when you like crawl out of the vent, and it's just fucking gross, and it's so good. And like to move in this game is an absolute joy. Like it's really, really fun to like get around, which is like a big ask in a video game. Most of the time, the ask is just like make movement serviceable, so that way I can get to your game. But if your game is moving around, mostly, if that's the crux of your game, then like the getting around needs to be very, very good to excellent. And like the design of this game like looks at the essential question of like, well, what is a Metroidvania game? A Metroidvania game is repeated traversal of the same areas over and over again as you gain new resources.
I don't know, man.
And
I'm not sure, like, asking for good movement is a big ask. Especially, like, where development is going, you know, towards, like, large-scale spaces and, like, open-world environments. Movement is, like, a larger consideration than it's ever been.
I guess that's true. Your game will go further if it's fun to get around.
Right.
And Carrion said, hey, friend, it's really fun to get around.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Karen said, what if we built an entire game about how fun it is to move around as a giant monster?
Hell, that's like what? At least a third of the success of the Mario series?
Mm-hmm.
Something else which is really, really fun is smashing lights. Because just as fun as you moving around, making it harder for the humans to do stuff before you kill them is also a good time. The game does good stuff with like vision cones and awareness levels for humans. Tegan, when you played it, did you get to interact with any of the possession stuff? Like when you would like possess people, like with your sinewy bits, and just be like, "All right, I'm controlling this human now."
Alex did that more than I did.
Mm-hmm.
That was a point for me that was like a little more weird, a little more like squicky, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Than like the other stuff.
That's a word I haven't heard in a while.
Yeah, right? The squick scale? Jeez.
Yeah.
Appropriate though,
True.
because that's what I got like the bad internal wiggles. And I was like, I don't like this. I see why it's a cool mechanic, but like I personally do not like it. And so I was glad that like they didn't force you really to do it. But it was still neat.
It is a good time to like possess someone and be like, "I walk amongst you."
It felt very like imposter. I am the imposter, and I am moving like a regular crewmate. Here I go! And then you fucking murder everybody.
Yep.
Didn't think Octodad would get this dark.
Yeah, right? Less flop physics than Octodad.
I think that the Octodad is like a good pull, because another game that I would connect this with is Hitman. The whole sense of like covert presence to like get things done. And this game is like 10,000 orders of magnitude darker than Hitman. Hitman winks at you and is like, everybody here is in on the joke. Have a lot of fun. This is legitimately a very funny game. There is nothing funny about Carrion. I don't mean that as a bad thing, but there is nothing funny about Carrion.
It's not what they're about.
So please check out the fleshy murder game.
Okay, so my next game is a lot more chill. There's absolutely no murder. Actually, that's not true. There might be a little bit of murder, but it's inconsequential. I played a game called Wingspan, and people who are board game enthusiasts may be familiar with the award-winning Eastern European board game about building bird habitats. And this is definitely a digitalization of that game. It came out for PC and Switch. I couldn't wait for the Switch version, so I got it on PC. We talked a little bit about it earlier this year. It's a card-based management game that is player versus player, but like largely non-antagonistic. In fact, it's a bit cooperative. It's a really chill time. You just kind of sit down and you build your own habitat. And there aren't really ways to like say no to other players, but there are ways to benefit from other players' cards. And its meta is a little non-intuitive because at first it just looks like you want to put down as many cards as possible. And like there is easy ways to like identify a simple win condition, which is like, you know, collecting a bunch of eggs or whatever. But it actually has a lot of depth in terms of like managing like your bird habitat and making sure that it feeds into itself to build really productive habitats. And that's really fun. The whole game is hand painted. Its soundtrack is incredibly chill. I had a really good time fucking around with it this summer.
Tell me more about the art. Like the hand painted caught my attention.
Yeah, man. It seems like there are recreations of like birdwatcher drawings or paintings of like individual birds, and you have like backgrounds that are like, you know, like a meadow or like a lakeside or whatnot. And it's not quite fresco. It's a little wetter than that, but it's something between like watercolor, I think, and like acrylic. It'd be easier just to like show you a photo.
I have found.
Okay.
I'm on it.
Okay.
It's that like Bob Ross kind of acrylic style.
Big Bob Ross vibes. And like, you know, I'm biased because I love birds. Birds are fucking sick.
I thought you were going to say you loved Bob Ross.
Bob Ross is cool, but not as cool as birds. And he knew that.
Fair.
You know, that's why he joined the Air Force. He wanted to hang out with them. I remember early on, I was just like sitting around having a good time and putting down some bird cards. And then I remember getting like roasted by the AI, and I'm like, holy shit, like what's happening? It's really funny because like at first, like if you're trying to win at Wingspan, you start playing really aggressively, but like aggressiveness is just like not the way to win. Like that's not the vibe. It's very like reactive, but also like not trying to like maximize much of anything. Just make sure that like everything keeps moving. And like it really feels like the way to win is just to kick back, focus on balancing your habitat, and make sure all the birds have everything they need. And I know that sounds cheesy, but it's the truth. I swear to God. And that was a really cool experience, considering like the type of stuff that I normally play.
Well, and also the way I feel like most card games are played.
True. Like, Magic the Gathering fans, like Yu-Gi-Oh nerds that like want to like, master every card and memorize every single interaction, like are probably going to hit a wall pretty early. And then they'll adjust and they'll be pretty good. But like people that just like sit down and just try to keep everything even, like will also be pretty competitive. It's kind of wild.
Bob Ross was in the Air Force?
Yeah, man. 20 years.
Yeah, you didn't know that?
I did not know that.
Mm-hmm. And then he decided, you know what? Post that. Like, I'm not a career man. I just want to kick it. I'm just going to do my public access painting show. Share positivity. My afro and shit.
I have fallen in the hole of like learning about like the history of the public access show.
Mm-hmm.
And that like him being the host of that show is like kind of like an accident of history.
Right.
But I did not know that he was in the Air Force. Legit fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big fan of anytime I have an opportunity to tumble down the Bob Ross wiki hole. So thank you, Wingspan.
Hey.
Also, this does look very laid back.
Dude, it's super chill. If you want to play some games, holla at your boy.
You should do it. Please compete.
Oh, man.
I want to see Wingspan tournaments.
Right?
I want them to be just like the fucking chillest things, you know?
It's like, I'm just going to put down this warbler next to my my Groose, and we'll see how that plays out for me.
Especially, like, considering this year, like, I know a lot of people have become sort of amateur bird watchers.
True.
Through our newfound requirements of staying home for people who didn't usually stay home. So, like, it's fun to, like, see the birds. They're cool birds. Found out there's a woodpecker that lives in the tree next to my window.
Neat.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody. Would you like to hear about a video game that does not treat Greek mythology even remotely seriously?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of treats it as like a fuck-off joke, more as like an excuse to create a world in which you can, like, I guess the best way to put it is Breath of the Wild around.
Oh, you had my interest and now you have my attention, Brian.
Okay, so Immortals Phoenix Rising is a game which is for anybody who has ever sat down with one of Ubisoft's open world games, and like about 30 to 40 hours into that game, they have to unbuckle their belt and just sit there on the couch and go like, I'm so full. So full. I couldn't eat another bite. If you've ever sat there on the couch and said, do I really need to watch these dogs? Or, like, surely these assassins don't need to find all of these hidden scrolls.
Mm-hmm. Why did they hide so many of them?
But why, though? Question mark. Immortals Phoenix Rising is like, hey, look, what if we took basic formula of the modern Ubisoft open world game, but had a considerably smaller entire world and a lot less bullshit on the map? You're not going to get any kind of like marker fatigue in this game at all. Tegan, stop me if this sounds familiar.
Uh-huh.
The way you explore and traverse the world of Immortals Phoenix Rising is your map starts out not really having any indication of the general area that you're in. And what you do is you climb to the top of a tower, which is the largest, the tallest location within that province or area. And then you look around from that tower, marking points of interest, and then are able to set markers or goals in that area now that you've gone to the top of that tower.
I mean, that does sound vaguely familiar. Like, maybe I might have sunk over 300 hours into a game that had a marking system very similar to that, but I can't quite put my finger on what it was called.
What if in this game, tied to the quest where you really climb to the top of your first tower, you also acquire a pair of wings, which don't allow you to fly,
Uh-huh.
but so much as to gently glide and descend.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm really fucking glad that this is exactly the kind of game I thought this was, because I was like, oh, I want to pick this game up. I want to get Phoenix Rising. It looks good. And then I was like, oh, what if it's not actually Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, but for ancient Greek nerds, like ancient Greek fantasy nerds? And so I didn't. And then I had regret, and now I have even more regret, so thank you.
Yeah, the game is like very silly. The game is very irreverent. Like the tone is very like goofy.
I mean, to be fair, that sounds right. Have you read Greek mythology?
It's goofy in a way which feels decidedly, I want to say, like more on the nose and more modern.
Oh, okay.
There's a bit early in the game where like Zeus is relaying the story of the protagonist, and he's like, "And that was the story," and he's doing this like outrageous voice. Then the game legit rolls credits, but the credit for everything on the game is Zeus.
Yeah, uh-huh. That sounds right.
Yep.
That sounds like Greek mythology.
The game is definitely satisfying in the way that, like, side quests are good, a lot like Breath of the Wild. They're almost never a big ask. Traversal is fun. It was very easy to, like, get back into that rhythm of, like, oh, I want to climb that very tall thing, but, like, I know that I'll run out of stamina by the time I get to the top of that tall thing. Let me load up my fucking pockets with shit that I know will give me stamina as I climb. Like, so if you've been wanting to get back into that vibe with, like, just a taste of some of the things that have made, like, the new, like, I think it's fair to call them Renaissance Assassin's Creed games good.
Mm-hmm.
This is a good sampler. Like, this is a tapas plate, which is, like, laid out with, like, delicious slices of Breath of the Wild and modern Assassin's Creed in a game which is not exhaustively overly bloated.
Ooh.
Like, you will be...
That sounds tasty.
We've talked about in this show that, like, games can sell me on saying, like, you'll run out of game right around the time you run out of time or run out of patience. Like, I don't want to, like, be 40 hours into something when all I have to give it is 40 hours. And it's like, friend, you've got 200 hours more to go. And I'm like, well, then you can go fuck yourself. I like games that feel right-sized. This game feels right-sized. Okay,
I do have a question.
Shoot.
I don't know if you'll be able to answer this. With the gold edition of the game, which was like the $100 version or whatever, there was a battle pass? The heck is that? Or is that not something you've gotten a chance to explore?
I have not explored it.
Okay.
From what I understand, there, like, one of the things in it is like some kind of like XP booster, and I never found myself needing that.
Mm-hmm.
I was always getting items and developing my little character at a speed that felt comfortable for the game. So, like, what I would say is, like, if that's something that you end up buying, and, like, that's certainly conceivable with, like, the frequency with which, like, Ubisoft games seem to go on discount, I would say, like, maybe consider not enabling that feature, or if you have the choice to, like, proceed without the XP boost, consider it.
Mm-hmm.
If I had a whole bunch of extra shit and could make my person develop that much faster, like, I would probably start running into, like, feeling overpowered, which would probably start make combat feel unsatisfying. As it is right now, like...
You're appropriately leveled for what it wants you to do.
Yes.
Gotcha.
It feels good to get engaged in combat. Like, it feels good to mix it up. You're not like, all right, well, this will take 2 minutes and I'm going to be bored. Or, like, I'm terrified for my life and I'm going to poop. Like, it's not that either. They did it. They kind of nailed it. It's a good way to hang out. Also supports cross-save functionality as long as you bother to log into your Ubisoft account. So if you happen to be one of those people who wants to play this game on multiple platforms, you can legit do that.
Interesting.
Yeah, they're definitely getting better about that. You can, like, bounce back and forth between, like, Xbox and Switch or Switch and PC, and no big whoop.
Good to know.
Yep.
Huh.
Rocky.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that for me is tied up in memory associated with your next game is that the last time you brought up this game on the show, you said fuck off Brian about this game.
I did say fuck off Brian. That did happen.
Yes. When I said, hey, isn't this that remake of Fire Emblem 2? And then you said, fuck off Brian, at which point I went and looked up the game. And it is, in fact, a remake of Fire Emblem 2.
That also is the thing that happened. Yes.
Yes. So I would like to take this time to say I demand an apology. It does not have to be in the form of tequila.
Just a regular, like, on the show apology?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so here's the thing, Brett. I'm not going to apologize for that. I'm not going to apologize because while my facts were incorrect, which is something that I did acknowledge on that particular show, the thing that I reacted to was, like, the sense of you trying to minimize the game as, like, a sequel. In this particular instance, like Shadows of Valentia, I understand, and I acknowledge that as well on this same show. I know that you didn't mean to minimize the game, but that's the way that it sounded, and that's what I reacted to. But I do acknowledge that you were initially correct when you said that it is a remake of Fire Emblem 2. But I think it's more a remake in line with Final Fantasy VII Remake in comparison to its original property.
Right.
Fire Emblem Shadows of Valentia came out for the 3DS years ago, and I got into it because I've realized it may be one of my last chances to get into the game, since like the 3DS is now out of production, and its eShop is probably soon to follow. But Shadows of Valentia is, on the 3DS, a very ambitious Fire Emblem game. It was like mostly voice acted, like 80-90% voice acted, with 2 bespoke protagonists, even more so than like Fire Emblem Secret Stones, arguably comparable to that of Fire Emblem Three Houses. But even then, like Three Houses, you had like deuteragonists that you chose to follow, while like this game specifically has 2 fully formed characters with arcs that you follow rather than like someone you bring along for the ride. Or I guess in Three Houses, you more go along for that particular character's ride when you choose a house.
Right.
In addition to that, like it rethinks the way that like Fire Emblem works as a combat system. It does away with like its simple rock, paper, scissors decision making and asks you to make more precise decisions about how to develop characters. There's a lot more progression to be had. The only game in the series that rivals its level of progression is like Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn, where you have multiple like classes and various builds and like 3 levels of like upgrades along those paths. They're fully animated cutscenes. There's a lot of like additional content where like if you wanted to put it all together, it's something like maybe 100 hours on the campaign plus the DLC, and altogether it was like $80 if you want to get all the DLC. Which I haven't pulled the trigger on all of yet. I do want to get through the main story. Everything that I've seen feels very well thought out and very interesting, and there's a lot of ways to like build a particular team. If you want to run the entire game with like a group of mages, you can. And like the game doesn't really penalize you for it. It just asks you to adapt to certain situations differently. Same thing if you want to just like have like a full army of cavaliers that ride horses, you could do that too. But there's also like many ways to make the characters that you're fighting with your team your own, and they're all like also full of personality. It does the thing that Fire Emblem does well, which is when you see certain characters, you definitely want to see what happens to them in the end. And there are ways to meter that experience where if you want to play classically, where like if someone dies, they die and you just roll through it. Or if you want to put it like closer to what modern Fire Emblem does, where if a character dies in a battle, it's just that they're injured and they're like TKO'd and they'll come back at the end of the map or whatever. The reason I was initially interested in it was because around the time the Fire Emblem Awakening came out for the 3DS, which is actually the time I chose to buy my 3DS, I felt a distance from like the sort of old school, like deep and engaging, albeit difficult gameplay. And since then, with the exception, I guess, of like Fire Emblem Fates, which is almost prohibitively difficult with like more systems on top of systems rather than just like asking you to make more nuanced decisions about what you're doing and really stick to your builds, have been a lot softer and like felt like it was losing a bit of the soul of the games. And Shadows of Valentia was like a direct like response to that, like albeit it was a little less popular because it wasn't like Eugenics Simulator or whatever. But I've had a lot of fun with this game, and like it's going to let me have all my fun as far as I can tell, and I've been really enjoying it, especially on my 3DS, because I don't get a lot of chances to pull that out these days.
Well, first of all, Rocky, I'm really glad you had a chance to pull it out.
Yeah.
Second of all, like I'm starting to like wish that like there were almost like 3 different words for like when this happens with games. Because like right now there only seems to be remaster and remake.
Sure.
I don't necessarily think that like
either of the words describe like what happened with this game.
Exactly. I think about like the re-release of the original Crash Bandicoot trilogy that happened last year, which was by all definitions, like it was a legitimate remake because they were not using the original assets. They were all new assets. But it is absolutely 100% note for note, faithfully those games. The same jumps that were assholes, 25 years ago are still assholes now.
Right.
That kind of thing. But what we're I guess describing in these situations like Final Fantasy VII Remake and this, these are games that play in the spaces that were established by the previous game. Having played through Final Fantasy VII or having played through this Fire Emblem game are not going to necessarily... I mean, they may do you some favors, but they don't mean that you're going to just feel like you're having the same experience. Like, when I played through those Crash Bandicoot games, it was like, yep, these are those games, but they're just prettier. And, like, that feels like what I'm getting out of a remaster.
Right.
Right. So is this not categorically the definition of a reimagining?
That's the word that was coming to mind for me, too.
Yeah. Look, it's a whole new category. It's a whole new kettle of fish. Because, like, in both of those cases, like, the designers are fully operating a space where they allow themselves to use the lessons that they have learned in the intervening time. Considering that there is an actually, like in the case of Final Fantasy VII Remake, a viable debate about what certain imagery means in the game. Or in the case of Fire Emblem, adoption of mechanics about what happens when party members die, which is like pretty fundamental to like a shift in like Fire Emblem philosophy over the years.
Right.
These represent radical departures. It feels real to say like there should be another word because like these are not...
It's not the same game, but it's also like not completely different. It feels like it grew up a bit.
Yeah.
I mean, is that not a reimagining?
Yeah, I think reimagining
do we not have,
would probably be
do we
the
not have
word.
the third word? Is that not the third word Brian is looking for, though?
I'm saying that the industry should adopt that word. When I see a guy on a stage with a headset, like be like, get excited for, like, I want to know how I should rate my level of excitement.
Oh, I see. So you're saying you want the industry to start using that word. I see.
Right. Like right now they're only using 2 words, remaster and remake, and those words aren't giving us enough depth. They're too shallow. They're not telling us enough about it. If IO Interactive said tomorrow that they were going to remake Hitman Blood Money, I would be some excited. If they told me they were going to reimagine Hitman Blood Money, I would probably need to put on new trousers. So like we need more precise language when people are communicating what these releases are.
I get that.
Gotcha.
I say we keep using it until it sticks.
I like it.
Brian, I think the next game on your list is something you described as your game of the year in 2020.
I've certainly backed off of putting it to the top of the list. And I guess we'll get in.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense.
But it did make my top 5.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, but... And this is one of those places where it would be absolutely appropriate and make sense for Tegan to scream at me, this is not a video game. Because it's not.
Is it going to be What Remains of Edith Finch? I will argue. I will fight you.
Tegan.
Yeah.
We don't have to have those moments anymore. We don't we don't live in that world.
I mean, we don't, but I also am ready for war, so.
But I want to talk about 8800 Blue Lake Road. Because of like the way it was presented to me, the context it was presented to me, the way I experienced it, and kind of like the way the world at large ingested it. So one day in our Twitter chat, Rocky threw a message in, said, Brian, I'm going to need you to look at this.
Yeah. I remember that.
And it was this like article about one of those like virtual home tours for a house that was for sale in Kentucky. Okay. I fell headlong down this hole.
Right. All according to plan.
Like, so first I did the virtual home tour, and I was like, what is this nightmare?
Who planned this house? How is this someone's house?
There's so many things which are like weird and wrong about the way the architecture works, and it's like so easy to get like lost and have this like overwhelming sense of like discomfort and dread.
There's that weird shallow bathtub that it turns out isn't a bathtub.
No,
It's baptismal.
There are multiple bathroom, like, stalls, and, like, the stalls have been removed, so there's just a row of fucking toilets.
There's the weird, like, industrial commercial use level fire alarms along the wall.
Mm-hmm.
There are windows that look out onto nothing.
Yep. There's a cat.
There is a cat.
And the cat is, like, definitely sitting there in judgment.
Absolutely judging you.
The cat is also nowhere near, like, the moment where you discover the cat's litter box. Like, discovering cat litter boxes in that space is, like, a treat. There's the giant entire wall of Girls Gone Wild DVDs.
Okay, give me a number, Brian, like, before people, like, run wild. How many DVDs do you think you saw?
Girls Gone Wild, somewhere in the order of, like, maybe 1,000 or 2,000.
Sorry, it's always funny to me. Go ahead.
I mean, there were enough boxes. Like, I've packed DVD cases into boxes. I know how many DVD cases fit in a fucking box. There were a lot of boxes of DVD cases of Girls Gone Wild.
Yeah, I definitely feel comfortable, and I don't feel like I'm being outlandish saying there's about 2,000 Girls Gone Wild DVDs.
Yeah, I'm willing to agree with that.
You'll just, like, go down, like, an aisle, and you'll find, like, something just, like, labeled, like, Yu-Gi-Oh! Plushies. And it just, like, says got marker on the outside of the box. And you're just like, what the fuck is all this?
You're like, why are these here?
And so then, like, that leads to, like, researching the house, and then researching, like, the history of building permits. And then that, like, leads to telling all your coworkers about it, and then, like, it leads to a meeting at work breaking down because every one of you is now, like, taking the home tour at the same time. Mm-hmm. And then it leads to, like, a game where you're timing to see who can find the bathroom the fastest.
Bathtub.
I'm sorry, the bathtub the fastest. Like, all right, guys, like, it's the bathtub speed run. And so you got everybody speed running the bathtub run. And then, like, you start to, like, read about the guy who owns the house. That becomes a whole thing, and you start to, like, read about, like, the history of his various, like, legal, like, entanglements, and, like, his arrests for, like, drug possession, his arrest for drug dealing, his arrests for, like, things that are more unsavory. And then, like, he starts, like, to, like, weirdly give interviews with the media.
Right.
I'm thinking about, like, selling the Girls Gone Wild DVDs and signing them, because now they're, like, historical. And you're like, oh, Jesus. It's kind of like one of those things where, like, I guess he doesn't really understand the way the internet touches
stuff.
Yeah. And it's like, by the time you have it, to get a batch of these in the mail, no one will care about the next batch. And then, like, people started converting it into maps for VR chat. Then somebody made a Quake mod for it. It started to, like, creep into, like, actual interactive media and actual game culture. The whole thing felt like a very, very big ARG.
Yes.
Between, like, reading about the history of the building permits, finding out why there were two separate disconnected basements.
God, yeah. That was weird. That was so weird.
And that one of the two basements goes 2 stories beneath the surface of the earth. Holy fuck. That's wild. And so, like, reading about, like, the history of the building, looking up the building permits, reading about the guy, and then be like, oh, he sells bullshit online. It was like one of those things that, like,
suddenly all of the pieces fit together.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, that's why there's 2,000 fucking Girls Gone Wild DVDs. Oh.
That's why there's a box just labeled Yu-Gi-Oh! Plushies. And it just, like, it was very, very satisfying. Like, it kind of, like, felt like just taking the initial home tour opened up a larger game experience, and it felt very much like a multiplayer game experience. Taking the home tour is, like, the first thing you do in an ARG, and then you discover the game's culture, and then you start doing research, and you go to Reddit, and you talk to people, and you share stuff that you found, and then they share stuff that they found. Like, I was legit looking at fucking county tax assessor records.
Oh my god, no, hold on, no, I'm sorry, I'm just piecing together that Brian may be one of the progenitors of the 88 Blue Lake lore run, and that's fucking fantastic.
Oh, dude.
Yeah, and it was, like, really, really satisfying. Like, it felt in every way like the best ARGs I've ever touched. And so, like, I submit to the court, I don't know but it felt like one of my best game experiences of the year.
800 Blue Lake Road's a video game.
Yeah, I think describing it specifically as an ARG makes it a video game. Because, like, there's definitely game aspects to everything that you did with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I submit that 8800 Blue Lake Road is one of, not the best, but one of the best games of the year. Which is really fucked up.
It's like that moment, oh, neither of you watched it, fuck. But there's a line in Parks and Rec where, like, a character improvised. Like, he was, like, looking at a computer while, like, the protagonist was sick. And it's like, hey, Leslie, I put your symptoms into this computer and it tells me you might have internet connectivity problems.
I know exactly what part you're talking about because I have seen that part online.
Okay, yeah. And, like, the writers were mad as fuck because that's probably one of the funniest lines on the show and none of them wrote it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like cancer or something.
Yeah.
And instead he like actually plugged everything in and was like, the internet isn't working, but didn't say it until he was already in character and it was too late.
Yeah. Jesus Christ. I hope that RE8 learned some lessons from 8800 Blue Lake Road, but you know, we'll get through when we get there.
We'll get there when we get there. If we get there.
I think we'll make it. Maybe.
But will they learn the lessons of 8800 Blue Lake Road, or will they simply try to monopolize its cannibalized form?
Oh god, maybe it'll happen in like RE9. They're just like sitting there like, fuck, we already designed the map. Why didn't we think of this?
Yeah, there we go. That sounds about right.
No.
It'll be like DLC content.
For sure. Fuck.
Girls Gone Umbrella Corp.
Jesus Christ, yes. They'll be like, oh, we're in this weird suburb in Kentucky. What will we find?
Okay, the next game on my list is one that's very important to me. It renewed my faith in the world and made me hopeful for the future.
Well, that's kind of important.
It is Paper Mario, the Origami King. Paper Mario, for people who aren't in the know, has had a rough go of it for maybe the past decade. They originally started with what some may regard as some of the most important RPGs that ever happened, Paper Mario and Paper Mario the Thousand Year Door. Personally, I feel as Paper Mario 64 is about as important as Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, don't at me. But after that...
Okay, you called it an Ocarina, and I cannot allow that to stand. Please correct yourself.
Sorry.
It's an ocarina.
Is it ocarina? Like an octopus?
It's an ocarina. Yeah, it's not Orcarina. There's no R in it.
Fine. Can I say ocarina? Is that fine?
Yes, you can say Ocarina. That is okay.
Okay.
Dare you say breakfast?
Okay, so, but after that, Paper Mario had some rough entries. Super Paper Mario was trying to do new things, but fundamentally shook up the initial gameplay experience to mixed results. And then Sticker Star, which is universally reviled among fans and, like, onlookers alike. And then Paper Mario Color Splash, which is, you know, a little overhated because it didn't go back to the standard RPG formula. And now we have this, Paper Mario the Origami King, which is new Paper Mario. I think the latest Paper Mario in, like, what, 6 years? Something like that?
Something like that.
Paper Mario the Origami King very much looked like a return to form. They brought partners back, which is a thing that's been missing, which was an interesting point of interaction for both gameplay and narrative that had been sorely missed throughout, like, the previous entries, barring the first two. And then it looked like we may be going back to traditional RPG combat. There was a lot of questions about whether experience points would matter, which I know sounds like a really petty thing to fight about, but it's important to, like, identify what kind of gameplay loop we were fucking with. Paper Mario the Origami King turned out to not be an RPG. It's an adventure game that happens to have turn-based instance battles, but it's a very good video game. It seems that the team at Intelligent Systems were much more able to articulate the types of gameplay that they were trying to encapsulate with things like Sticker Star and Color Splash, so that they were, you know, fun to play again, which was nice. And the writing was solid. The partner interaction was good, even though they, like, came and went, and they, I don't want to say they made them disposable, because that was one of the things that came up in prior games. Like, partners, like, joined Mario's party forever, but it wasn't like a traditional RPG where you had, like, 8 people, you could have 3 of them fight with you at once. It was like you could only have one at a time anyways, and so they wanted to make them less of, like, a combat balancing thing. And there are a couple of things about Paper Mario the Origami King that challenged people in ways that they did not enjoy. One being like the ring battle system, which turns out to be a really polarizing thing because every battle that you fought in Paper Mario, the Origami King, took place on a stage like it did before, but you're kind of in the center of an arena. And you would manipulate this ring around you to like line up enemies, and then you could wipe them out essentially in a turn. It made battles expedient and straightforward, but the puzzles themselves were actually the goal. And so it wasn't really about coming in with like a very like tactical loadout or anything like that, which is a dimension of enjoyment with the first Paper Mario games, but more about like the satisfaction of solving this puzzle or these puzzles that like increase in difficulty as you continue. And it's one of those things that you had to buy into, honestly, to enjoy the game. There wasn't really a way around it. And that ruffled some feathers, especially in some of the later segments where there were puzzle segments where there were just static puzzles that seemed to jump in complexity all at once. And if you didn't understand the ring initially, like you would just be stuck there and it was a bad time. But I didn't have that experience. Luckily, I cruised through most of the game. I had a lot of fun with the ring. I thought it was interesting and neat. And I think some of the boss encounters, while they arguably lacked some of like immediately identifiable differences that older games had, where like you had characters that looked completely new and you had to like interact with them. Like if you just looked at character models, like the Origami or some of the partners, they look very flat. It later came out that Tanabe at Intelligent Systems and to a larger extent Nintendo were like restricting the kind of risks that they were able to take in designing new characters. Even some saying that they were flat out unable to create new characters as part of their like RPG, which definitely limits the types of things that could appear on screen. And it's really visible and it feels arbitrary and kind of lame, but it still manages to be a really good and engaging game on top of it. So if people want to like enjoy the series and engage with Paper Mario on like its narrative grounds and just like inhabiting the space with like paper shenanigans, I think you should touch it. I think it's a very good idea. But, for people who want to play Thousand Year Door again, maybe pick up Bug Fables. It's basically the same thing. I'll talk about it later.
Okay. Friend,
lend me your ears.
Does anybody here like a little fantasy baseball?
I don't like regular baseball, so I make a point not to enjoy fantasy sports.
I have a few qualms with baseball. I think a lot of its action is really static. I think the sport itself is really slow, and I think it doesn't do a lot to engage new audiences.
I don't like fantasy video game sports. I don't like what's that game? What's that sport ball game that they play in Final Fantasy X?
Blitzball.
Yeah, that. I don't like that. Fake soccer. I don't like Quidditch. I just don't like sports. I think it's the asthma talking. I think my lungs hear the word sport and I immediately seize up.
Fun fact, my father wanted me to get into sports to specifically combat my asthma. I'm not sure it worked.
Alas.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you like fantasy baseball, Brian?
I thought I didn't, and then I discovered Blaseball.
Okay, low-key, like, every time you guys have talked about Blaseball, it sounds like some kind of weird, like, everybody's gotta be fucking high to understand anything that is going on.
Blaseball is the real fantasy baseball, Tegan. Like, there are some...
Is actual fantasy baseball in, like, a fantasy setting.
Yeah.
And also a baseball setting. What the hell is it?
It's high fantasy baseball. Hey, there it is,
yes.
Tegan. It's high fantasy baseball.
I figured it out.
Right. So, like, shit happens in Blaseball where the people who have accounts, get votes in between season can, like, vote on things to happen which will, like, fundamentally change Blaseball.
Uh-huh.
For example, like, you may vote that the 5 top teams in the rankings start each game with -1 runs.
Yeah.
Meaning that they have to, like, get a run to even get to 0. Or you can purchase peanuts and throw peanuts at the players when they're at bat. And it is possible to A, just annoy a player, B, to kill a player if they have a peanut allergy, or C, there is a, like, very, very small chance statistically that you will just strike them such with the peanut that they will die from the impact of the peanut, regardless of whether or not they're allergic. You have idols which you worship, and if various players wear pendants celebrating these idols, when they perform certain actions that'll please certain gods, there is a book of forbidden knowledge that was opened, and the result of this was like the invitation of an elder god into this realm, and at the end of a season, the fucking team that won the pennant then had like a Final Fantasy style boss fight against an eldritch god.
Jesus Christ. What the fuck? What does that even mean?
It's exactly what it sounds like.
I don't understand.
They also, if I remember correctly, because it was the Crabs that won that season, right, Brian?
Correct. That was also the season before they added another base to the playing of the game. Right. They're like, we're adding fourth base.
Another strike.
Yep.
But the Crabs, after they face down God, they were also trapped in purgatory where they had to play the god like for the rest of the season. And they went.
Are the Crabs a team?
Yeah, the Baltimore Crabs.
Yes.
Or are there crabs?
No. They're a team. They're called the Baltimore Crabs.
Jesus Christ.
And like the Crabs were like trapped in purgatory. They had to play against the god for like the rest of the regular season. So like the season before they were like what, 60-31, and the next season they went 1-92 because they kept playing against God.
Jesus Christ.
Uh-oh.
That doesn't seem fair.
No, it wasn't fair. But like
they introduced mechanics to resurrect players from the dead.
What?
Why do players die?
Well, because, peanut allergies, or, being struck by peanuts, or lightning, or, blood rain. Stuff happens, Tegan.
Or being attacked by the Squirrel of Devouring.
Yes, also that.
What is also really, really fucking cool is that, Blaseball's fan base became, incredibly active as far as, fan art and fan lore, and people just started, writing tons of stuff about Blaseball, all over the place, and, there was all of this, really, really great fan art. And the people who run Blaseball, who run a Patreon, just came out there and said, yep, it's all canon. You make fan art, you write about these characters, it's all real. And also gave the go-ahead to fans of the game that said, and hey, if you want to sell shirts, if you want to sell goods, go ahead, fuck capitalism, sell all the fan merch you want. And the Blaseball community came together multiple times throughout the pandemic to raise money for various anti-capitalist charities. Blaseball has such wholesome, good energy. I have at various times in my gaming career enjoyed logging into a thing to stare at a text interface. Mm-hmm. I have definitely logged my time with some multi-user dungeons where I would read text and go you encounter a door, what do you do? But this was the time in 2020 where I kept on itching to get up my fucking phone, log into Blaseball and go oh no, that happened?
Why is my team suddenly fighting God for 15 weeks?
Yeah. Well,
that doesn't seem like that should be fair.
Also, the fun thing about it is that the way that the game is paced, if you want to sit in on an individual Blaseball game, it takes about 10 minutes. And a whole season plays out over the course of a week. And so, it solves a lot of the problems with real-life fantasy baseball, that it's slow, that it's, unengaging, because, everything is happening so fast, you can just kind of pop in, and, stuff happens, and, you can do stuff as, fans, throw peanuts or, cast your votes, but the game largely plays itself, and you're more, along for the ride than anything else.
And the other really cool thing is that, there's stuff that you can do to make the hands-off portion more rewarding and more fun. Mm-hmm. There's an item that you can buy in the store, which is the passive income potion.
Right.
And, the more you stack your passive income potion, then the more money you get for when your team wins, regardless of whether or not you bet on your team.
Right.
Let's say you go 3-4 days without, logging in, the game doesn't punish you for, staying away. Say, a traditional, gacha or free-to-play game would. They'll be hey, dude, you were away. Here's a bunch of money. Go do something with it. Mm-hmm. Where, most games are well, you have to be engaged in order to get an engagement bonus. And it's all right, well, fuck you. I have a job and shit to do thing.
Despite what the pandemic will have you think, I do have a life.
Right. And so, like, it was very, very fun to have Blaseball be like, man, no big deal. You didn't log in for, like, 4 days. Whatever. Here's a bunch of money. And then, like, if you, like, just say happen to log in on a weekend when there's nothing going on, or, like, your team is out of it and so they didn't make the playoffs, there's stuff that you can do in between seasons. Like, there's the voting that I mentioned that happens earlier. And so, like, you can materially impact, like, what the next season is going to look like with your vote. Mm-hmm. You can get one of the pendants for your players. And then, like, when new stuff shows up, like, it always, like, fundamentally changes, like, how, like, the game plays. Like I remember, like, when the pendants went into the store, I got, like, stoked because, like, oh, shit, like, you know, because there was a finite number of pendants. And I was like, getting more pendant, like, because you could stack the number of pendants that, like, each player was wearing. And so, like, if a whole bunch of people who were fans of the same team all, like, stacked a player with pendants, then, like, you could just, the amount of money that you could make off of that player, like, hitting, which would then, like, just absolutely skew the possibility for voting over the weekend, because you would get so much money, you could buy extra votes.
These players are not real?
They are not real.
Yes.
Okay, none of these things are real.
None of them are real.
Okay.
Yes.
I kept thinking the entire time you guys were talking about them, I thought they were like real esports teams.
Oh, no.
No.
Like that you would actually invest, like, not real money into, but like game money into. And I was like, why? I don't understand why they're fighting. God, why do you mean they have allergies? Why would you allow people to throw peanuts at people who had peanut allergies? That sounds like a suable offense.
Right.
Like, oh God. Stuff makes so much more sense now.
Sorry, Teeks.
And, like, yeah, and, like, all the players have these, like, really, really fun names.
You should have started saying the names.
You know, like,
actually, that would have been it.
Yeah, like, if I had told you, like, yeah, so Concrete Mandible or Dominic Marijuana is that place.
Fucking Nerd Pacheco.
That could have been a fucking, like, I've seen the WWE names. Like, I know how wonky they can get. That wouldn't have helped.
Baby Triumphant, Justice Spoon, Peanut Shield Duffy, and Peanut Holloway.
Francisca Sasquatch.
What the hell?
Gooby
Balsa. Are you guys okay?
Durham Spaceman.
Alden Cash Money.
I do know a Cash Money.
Zion
Paula
Alicia
Turnip.
Keys. Alicia Keys is one name altogether.
Oh, Jesus Christ. What the fuck?
Oh, this is so good. Mummy Malkin.
Okay, so who's your favorite player?
Oh, so mine is actually my idol that won the season for the Hellmouth Sunbeams, which is Han Fox. Nerd Pacheco's a close second.
The Hellmouth Sunbeams?
Yeah.
Is that supposed to be your local team?
Close enough. I mean, they're in Wild Low. They seem like they're from the Southwest.
Okay. They're from the Fantasy Southwest?
They're actually in the Wild League, and they're in the low end of the Wild League, so Wild Low.
Okay.
There's a Wild League and a Mild League.
Sure! Is there a Spicy Hot League? Like a Chunky Salsa League?
I mean, we're getting there. I mean...
What the fuck?
Brian is in the Wild High League with his team, the Mexico City Wild Wings.
That's correct.
Okay.
On various players on the Wild Wings have died due to incineration.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's been a problem.
From the sun? Is it the sun that's incinerating them, or is it like an alien?
Well,
is that a spoiler? Are there spoilers?
Well, they were the Mexico City Wild Wings have been the victim of targeted shame.
That is true.
Targeted shame.
Yeah, shame is actually a weaponized tool that you can use to manipulate the game in Blaseball. It's kind of lit.
Right.
Uh-huh.
And shame can cause players to incinerate.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I feel like I am a mom, and you guys are explaining to me Fortnite. I'm just like, that sounds great, dear.
Okay, but the cool thing about Blaseball is a lot like 8800 Blue Lake Road. You can find the parts of the fandom that you want to engage with.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. You could be like, okay, I'm a Wild Wings fan. Let me go find a bunch of fan writing about Fran Beans and, like, art that people have made of Fran Beans.
Mm. Fran Beans has a distinct look?
People decide, essentially. And, like...
You decide
and, like, Blaseball is basically like, yeah, that's canon. Let's do it.
The thing that I really enjoy most is, like, just the absolute total embrace of their fan community. And that, like, basically what they've done is like charge their fans with just like be good eggs, and it has turned into this like self-policing paradise of like good people who just like fucking hang out on Twitter.
It's a good egg machine.
Yeah.
It's a good egg
Because,
machine.
like, there are definitely ways that this fandom could have gone where, like, it just, like, fell to infighting and then the game's not fun anymore. But, like, the people that fuck with Blaseball are like, yeah, be cool. Do crimes.
Yep.
Can you build a good egg machine to use against the other teams in Blaseball next season? Like the Willy Wonka good egg, bad
Sort
egg
of.
machine.
That's kind of like, so I don't want to say it's entirely based on balance. Like, for example, this past season, the Hellmouth Sunbeams.
Somebody fought God for 92 games. What are you talking about?
No, okay, so
balance?
here's the thing. So that one season, right? Like, where the Baltimore Crabs, they were incredibly dominant. Like, they got a couple of very key blessings at the beginning of the season that made it so that playing against them was basically impossible. And so they won the tournament pretty handily. It wasn't like a surprise. And then the surprise was like, oh, you guys won the tournament? That's cool. But you got one more guy to fight. And it turns out it's fucking God. And like, they basically get rocked for a season, which allowed like the balance of the rest of the game to like reset with new blessings.
Uh-huh.
It's never like a situation where like a team or even like a particularly like aggressive group of players can essentially override the entire game and just be dominant forever, because wacky shit happens often enough that shakes up the entire meta.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what's the corn team? There's gotta be a like faux Midwest team.
Give me a second.
I will figure out Blaseball for next season, next year. I don't know, and that's who I'll support.
So
whoever the fake corn
in
team
Mild
is.
Low, there are the Kansas City Breath Mints and the Yellowstone Magic. This is Seattle, Dallas, San Francisco, New York, Philly, Canada, Charleston, Hawaii, Limited Tacos, Houston Spies, Miami, Boston, Hades Tigers, Chicago, Breckenridge. Where the hell's Breckenridge?
Colorado.
Okay. And then the Breckenridge Jazz Hands. So Breckenridge Jazz Hands, Yellowstone Magic, Kansas City Breath Mints. Unless you want to go Canada.
How like, I don't know. I feel like Tegan is a Tokyo Lift fan.
I feel like Tegan could swing for the Tokyo Lift.
I mean, probably, like, based on the name alone, probably. But I specifically asked for, like, the corn team.
I think the closest you're going to get is the Canada Moist Talkers or the Yellowstone Magic.
Oh, disgusting. Moist
That's what it's
talkers?
called. Yeah.
Gross. Alright. I'll do them, I guess. I mean, I won't do them, but you know.
I'm just going to put this screenshot in our chat for your review later.
I feel like the unlimited tacos also is kind of like a pretty open-ended, you can be from most places to be a fan.
True.
Of the unlimited tacos.
But Tegan doesn't do Mexican food. She
I don't
didn't
like
even know
tacos.
what barbacoa
Okay,
was.
then that's out.
I mean, like, just on... I don't... Taco meat doesn't agree with me.
I think if you're really looking for
Tommy, get
that
upset.
Midwest flavor, Kansas City Breath Mints.
It's very west. I mean, the closest city listed is probably the Chicago Firefighters.
Yeah, I think that's literally the closest.
I think that's probably the closest
But,
city.
new teams pop up.
Because I'm assuming Miami is Florida.
Yeah, Miami's Florida.
Yep.
Yeah, it's gonna be Chicago or Philly. Philly pies?
But,
What
like-
the fuck? The New York Millennials! Oh, okay. I'm gonna do that
Okay.
one. Fuck
There
it.
you go.
There's also, like...
They sound miserable. I love it. I can't afford shit, I'm sure.
So, like, get in there, enjoy the goofiness, explore the fandom.
I will give it a college try.
Like, one of the things that I've seen and enjoyed the most, which I thought was cute, is that there are people out there who are already being like, I'm gonna cosplay Blaseball players, and like
How?
right, and like the levels of like the layers and levels that are required there, because what happens is like essentially somebody made fan art of the Blaseball player, and now they're building a cosplay of the fan art.
Yeah, that does happen.
Yeah.
That does happen. And then whatever, like, the most popular fan art of it is, becomes, like, the canon representation, even though there is no canon.
True.
Canon. That happens all the time.
Yeah. So this is a place where that is common, because like the people who make Blaseball don't make like, official visual representation of all the players TM.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
A reminder to Blaseball cosplayers, do not bring your bats to cons. You will not be allowed to carry them on the con floor. Bring a big-ass foam bat if you're going to bring anything. A glove.
There you go.
Like a pool noodle. Turn a pool noodle into a bat. You'll be able to bring that. Do not bring anything wood or metal or aluminum. Yeah, you can bring a glove, but don't buy a regular old baseball and expect to be able to carry it around on the con floor. They will yell at you, make you put it away.
Yep.
If we ever have cons again, you know. My hopes aren't up.
I'm sure we'll get there eventually.
Hopefully in time for the Atari Hotel to open.
The first con is at the Atari Hotel.
We're going, Brian. I've saved my first stimulus check specifically so that I can fly down there.
Tegan, it says, actually, I do want to talk about Wind Waker here.
Yeah, actually, I do want to talk about Wind Waker. And I'm going to tell you the story of how I decided to talk about Wind Waker.
Mm-hmm.
Somewhere between the insurrection and this week's recording, I ended up on Sea Shanty TikTok specifically. And then I was attacked by Sea Shanty TikTok specifically by being called out for being like, you know, in an isolated state during a heightened stressful situation and all that. You know, akin to being adrift on the high seas with no end in sight. And then today at work, one of my coworkers said, I got Wind Waker for the Wii U last week, and I've been playing it and really enjoying it, and all I want to do is play Wind Waker for the Wii U again. What other Zelda games can you recommend? And then I went, bleh, because that's what I do. But that made me think about how much I really enjoy Wind Waker. And so I did play Wind Waker earlier this year. And of course, I didn't breeze through it because I took my time. But, you know, essentially I breezed through it. And, yeah, it's a good game still. They really did nail all that music. Oh, mwah, beautiful.
True.
I love that game. That's my favorite Zelda game. That's the best Zelda game. You fight me on it, that's the best Zelda game.
Like, Legendary Hero intro, like, still haunts me. It's so good.
Mm-hmm. It's so good. And, like, the, like, stained glass style that they went with, they reused that style in later Zeldas to showcase different heroes, which makes sense, but, like, yeah. Yeah, that's just the best Zelda game. It's so nice. It's just so nice. You know, I did breeze through the first dungeon, and Alex was like, what are you doing? And I'm like, oh, I'm about to beat Dragon Roost. And he was like, already? And I was like, yeah. I started playing this game when I was 14. And then he was like, do you want to know how old I was, Tegan, when Zelda came out? And I said, if you do, I will turn into dust. If you tell me that, Alex, I will turn into dust immediately on this couch. But yeah, Wind Waker, still a great game. Still an absolutely perfect Zelda game. Please play it. I don't care if you don't like the art style. It's a good game.
Did it get a re-release on the Switch? Or is it still...
It has not gotten a re-release on the Switch. I did say that if they did a trilogy of games a la the Mario release on Switch, that probably Wind Waker would be included.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That. But for now, it's still Wii U and Wii and GameCube.
Oh, the GameCube. Actually, I think I got my first Wavebird.
That's where it came
when I
out.
played Wind Waker.
Yeah, me too. And then when I bought a GameCube controller for my Switch, I did buy the silver one because that's the same color as the Wavebird. Hey. I am nothing if not a creature of habit.
Tegan, I am very glad that you were able to, like, go home to that, like, warm place, which is...
I love that game. I love that game so much. I love that game so much. That's my favorite child right there. I know I gushed about Breath of the Wild, and I'm still eagerly awaiting Breath of the Wild 2, but, like, that's my favorite. That's my baby. Please play it.
Cool.
I know nobody wants to play it, but because nobody liked the art style. But like, I'm here to tell you, the art style is perfect for that game. Fuck off.
If people have a problem with that game's like art style, they can come find me. I'll fucking deal with them. Like, the game is beautiful. The game is legit gorgeous. Everything about the way Wind Waker communicates to its audience is thoughtful and brilliant. There is nothing quite like the animations on enemies who suspect that you're around but don't see you.
Mm-hmm.
That feels good, man. Because remember, Wind Waker is like a game of the series that introduced the idea of like picking up your enemy's weapon. Like, there's so much about Wind Waker that feels good. It's a very
toddle around under a barrel and see what happens.
Feels so good. The tone of the game is so perfectly married to that art style. Like, I couldn't even picture that game if it had like that same kind of like traditional high fantasy look that like Twilight Princess did, which is might as well be called like The Legend of Zelda: Find You Fuckers.
Twilight Princess is definitely Legend of Zelda. We figured out what bloom is.
Yep.
And I understand, like, that's the nature of, like, golden hour in games and stuff. But literally, since most of that game takes place in, like, a golden hour sort of setting, you can't see anything. It's all just bloom. Which is really unfortunate because that game is beautiful when you can see it.
And it's something that would have been nice if they had more addressed that in the look of the game when they put it out on Wii U. Like, I feel like Wind Waker got a level of polish in its re-release that Twilight Princess did not.
Yeah, I'm willing to agree with that. But also, Twilight Princess had the struggle of being simul-released on 2 consoles that had very different, like, controller requirements, because it was the bridge between the GameCube and the Wii. So, like, it has a lot of other things that I think it suffered because of that.
Yeah, a lot that could have been done. But, you know what? Hey, whatevs. Well, all I'm asking is please learn from these re-releases. Like, please learn from the Mario 3D All-Stars. Please learn from Twilight Princess. Please recognize the reasons that people gushed all over themselves for the Wind Waker HD release. Like,
and if you are on Sea Shanty TikTok, play it. You may as well. You're already there. You're halfway there. You're on the Sea Shanty side already.
Rocky, you went to Yarnum.
Oh yeah, I took the plunge. I finally played Bloodborne. I knew it was good. I didn't know why it was good. I knew it was good. But now I know. Bloodborne is a good video game. It is a very unique and rewarding game that decides to kick your ass until you figure it out. But once you figure it out, you have a whole new world to explore. So it's easy to forgive it. And as you continue to travel through the world and get your ass kicked and learn from those mistakes, you continue to get not only new spaces to explore, but new dimensions of those spaces to explore. And all that shit is really fucking sick. It's definitely deeply connected to its own aesthetic. It has its own cast of characters that it takes its time in introducing you to, and they interact with you in ways that make you question your interaction as a player. It's definitely PvE that it sometimes feels like PvP, and then sometimes it really is PvP if you really want it to be. And that's really cool. It's a game that isn't really upfront about itself. I can accept that. And that's a weird thing to like know going in. But peeling back the layers of the game is a significant chunk of the fun, and it feels a lot less like work than I thought it was going to be.
That sounds cool. Like, I keep on wishing it could unlock the fun of these games, you know, but like every time I've gotten in there, and there's something about the way you die in those games. I don't know.
Rubs you the wrong
it does.
No, it does.
It does. Like,
that's why I bounced off it. Like, I think for like, because once again, this is the year that I decided to sit down and really figure out what Bloodborne was about. But I've definitely interacted with the game like every couple of years since its initial release. And for the most part, with the exception of this time, I didn't really get past like the first section. And I pride myself on being pretty good at video games. And the thing is that Bloodborne doesn't care whether you feel like you're good at video games or not. Like, it's asking you to spend time with it, to learn how it works. Because it's the way that it's designed and the way that it's put together is very bespoke, but it also means that it's not really informed by like other gameplay experiences, really. And that is an incredibly valuable, but also a very off-putting thing for new players. And once like you get a handle on how its system works and how it wants you to like use your controller and like cycle through items and like mess around with things, you can tell that you actually have a lot more freedom than you thought you did. It's just you didn't know like the rules. You didn't know the lay of the land. And that's a really cool thing. It definitely continues to reward you over time for spending more time with it. But it's so unique that it's very hard to penetrate initially.
something I often do, because unlike Rocky, I do not pride myself on being very good at video games. I am serviceable at video games. I am okay at video games. Hell, there are some genres of video games that I'm downright bad at. But one thing that I do across genres, if a game presents me with its full sack is I will approach the game by turtling. I will say, like, all right, my response to if a game presents me its full sack is turtling. That is my response. And Bloodborne says, oh, you want to turtle, huh? Have you considered getting fucked?
What's turtling?
Turtling is a strategy where you play defensively and react to situations around you rather than playing aggressively.
I see.
Bloodborne has a couple systems in place that specifically reward aggressive play, and it's difficult to piece together a defensive strategy early on.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
And so, like, you really just need to figure out in those early parts of the game, like, how to
get in there.
Yeah, get in there. They want you to die at the very least dozens of times.
Yeah.
They just like get fucked, get fucked, get fucked. And
but unlike Hades, it's not fun to die.
Well, like, I do want to make a differentiation here. Bloodborne specifically doesn't give you anything when you die. And in Hades, there are handfuls of things that you specifically get because you die.
I see. Okay.
Because you died, now you can talk to Nyx and get a little bit more on your origins. Because you died, now you can interface with your mirror and take the things that you brought with you, these dark crystals, and try to play around with your build to see if you can get something that may push you a little further next time. Because you died, now you have an opportunity to change weapons or rethink the type of boons that you want to, like, prioritize going into the next fight.
Right.
And, like, Bloodborne just says, no, fuck you. You died. And that's it. But I do want to say that there's a particular point in Bloodborne that I really felt like I get it now. There's a couple of areas which are now pretty small, considering like the type of space that I have access to now. And there are a couple of boss fights. I think there are specifically two where that took me before like, oh, this is fucking Bloodborne. Like, at first there's like a boss, a cleric beast, which is just this big hulking thing that if you step wrong about 2 or 3 times, it'll kill you. That's just about it. And like, you can heal yourself in between, so like you can increase that number 2 or 3 or whatever, but full health, if you run in and it hits you like 2 or 3 times in a row, you're dead. And that's like focusing on the idea, like, you can't really cheese this from a distance. Like, you gotta get in and land some hits and find, because like it's the only way that you're gonna get to a threshold where it'll like kneel over and you'll get more damage or whatever. But I think the moment when I started to get Bloodborne wasn't this big boss fight, which is a thing that a lot of games try to like wrap it up in at first. It's when I fought a character, Father Gascoigne.
Oh, that Father Gascoigne.
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah,
and, like,
fuck him.
No, that particular fight is really important because like it tells you that you are not unique in this world. There are a lot of like PvE games that basically scale you in a way where your character is better than everything else here. And your main goal as a player is to figure that out and use that to your advantage as much as possible. But Gascoigne, whether you look by sheer numbers or the things that he's able to do, he's basically about as good as you. The only difference is that you get to come back from the dead. You're a player. You need to understand not only your personal strengths as a player and the toolset that you have available, but also identify your weaknesses, because your weaknesses are his weaknesses too. So it's very much a game that feels like battling yourself over time. And that is a really unique experience as far as video games go. Like, it's not just like you versus an environment. It's you have to understand your kit to beat the other guy. And not like in a surface level thing because they are just doing stuff. Like, you have to understand how your kit has gaps and learn how to exploit them. And that requires like a much larger depth of understanding than a lot of games seem to ask of players. That was really interesting. And you can, wear his clothes, essentially take on his persona later. And there are several characters, most of like the human-ish NPCs throughout the game, whose like weapons and tools and abilities and like play styles you can ultimately adopt, whether friendly or as enemies. And that's a really cool thing to do. But, it's hard to get there. And the game doesn't apologize for it. And so, like, that's why it took me so long to get into it. But I can definitely see what it's worth.
I think this is, again, a me problem and not a game problem.
Sure.
But the me problem is there are things, because you cannot effectively turtle, there are things it's going to demand as far as just matters of, like, reaction. Whether it's, like, how quickly you notice something visually or how quickly you, like, evade an incoming attack, I think are just simply beyond me.
I get that.
I don't think that the pleasure of Bloodborne is available to me. And that is unfortunate.
Yeah, I get that. But that's also why, like, I feel like Bloodborne... Well, I mean, Bloodborne is definitely a Souls-like. I do want to say that. But it's definitely more of a spin-off than, like, a direct entry. Same thing as, like, Sekiro. Like, I think, like, the speed... The base level speed that, like, the game demands is, like... Dead Souls, the series, like 1, 2, and 3, and then Bloodborne, and then Sekiro on top of all three. And I do feel like that the games are definitely bespoke, and they're trying to say something particular about these kinds of interactions, but, you know, they have like a very significant language requirement that isn't like vertical. Like, it's definitely like a horizontal thing. I think Sekiro does a little bit better of it over time because, like, there are significant turtling strategies, but it does take a while for you to put them together, and that is unfortunate. But, yeah, like, Bloodborne is definitely a particular beast that's, like, made for offensive gameplay. That is, like, a baseline requirement of it.
One of the reasons why it's, like, very, very easy for me to pick myself up and dust myself off and get back in there with, like, say, Spelunky.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if I have a run that goes sideways, and let's be real, in Spelunky, almost every run goes sideways.
Right.
But if I have a run that goes sideways, I'll be like, that shopkeeper got me. But in Bloodborne, there's this feeling of getting face-fucked over and over again by the same thing in the same place. So, like, when you die and you get bodied and you get returned to your fucking gas lamp and you're just like struggling and just inching and crawling forward, there's this horrible sense of like impending dread that just builds in your gut as you come to the place where you've died 10, 15 times. Yes. And you're like, there's a point past which it just stops being a fun feeling. Like, at first there's like adrenaline. You're like, all right, man, here's that fucking cleric beast. And you're like, all right, man, here's that fucking cleric beast. Like, until eventually, you, at least for me, you get to that place where you're like, you know what? I'm going to turn this video game off. And it's one of those things where I can look at it. I can look at the fundamental legs of it. I can look at how it's built. I can look at the construction. I can recognize the elegance of it. And, I don't know, meme of Doctor Who standing in the rain. It's where I'm at.
Yeah. No, I get that. I definitely know people have been there.
So, one of the things that I did this year was kind of like fall back headlong into an appreciation of Williams Midway. There was a lot of stuff that those dev teams did, which was like really fucking cool and like felt revelatory and felt dangerous and experimental at the time. And they made cool video games. And I remember being young and not ever being able to clear Smash TV. You know, I would go to the arcade, get bodied, and then bowl because I was out of quarters. But I always liked it. I enjoy the twin stick shooter. Like, I have a real soft spot in my heart for Robotron.
Okay.
Where you've got a dude running around and you're shooting with the gun with the other stick. And, like, Smash TV is this thing which is, like, very bright, very colorful, very vivid. It also, like, very directly informed by both the movie The Running Man and by RoboCop. And so, like, it has this, like, Trapper Keeper, Reebok Pump, Blue Raspberry Candy, like, later dude, circa 1990 fucking middle school kid sensibility about it. And it definitely feels like a game that was marketed to a certain generation at a certain time, and I was the right age at the right time.
For sure.
And so I wanted to get back in there and like finished Smash TV, and I finished Smash TV. The boss designs in that game are so stupid, and I mean that lovingly. People who feel compelled to make games with sprites right now, please, please, please go take a look at the bosses in Smash TV, because there's not enough of that going on. These massive sprite bosses that take up like huge chunks of the screen, because like in order for these to work, they like rely on your character being a smaller sprite, so that way you can have these jumbo bosses. And like Smash TV does a good job of that. These like huge, beautiful bosses. So like very silly, very violent, very fun, very dumb. Feels good, man.
For sure. Hey, Brian. I'm
Yo.
going to add to your list, but I also noticed that like Streets of Rage 4 isn't here. Was that intentional?
No, that is a glaring oversight on my part, and I deeply apologize.
Don't apologize, man. Don't be so... Okay, just... I have a particular thing about apologies, but, you know, just be...
Rectify it immediately.
Yeah.
Streets of Rage 4 added.
Dang. Oh, the next thing is Shin Megami Tensei 4 Apocalypse. I do want to clarify. Did you play Apocalypse or, like, Vanilla 4?
I played Vanilla, which fucked me right in my face.
I mean, it does that. Like... I can't even lie about it, man.
Like, oh my god. The part where, like, when you die and it's like, spend your coins that you get from walking around with your 3DS in your pocket. Just like, oh my god. But continue. Tell us all about it.
So, like, yeah, so Shin Megami Tensei 4 Apocalypse is really funny because it's like, it's not quite a sequel. It feels like, as far as I'm in the story currently, it feels like a spin-off. It feels like it's taking place near the end of like Shin Megami Tensei 4's story. There's just other stuff going on, apparently. You have new protagonists and they're doing stuff, but the original protagonists are like currently heroes, and like they're prepping to do like the big thing and shatter like the dome above the sky or whatever.
Right.
The gameplay experience is largely Shin Megami Tensei 4, but it's polished in a lot of ways. Oh, actually, Brian, I'm going to put you onto a little bit of game. It turns out that the secret to winning at Shin Megami Tensei 4 is very similar to the secret of winning at Wingspan, which is not trying to collect resources or even have like the strongest attacks, even though those things are important. It's much more about controlling the action economy. And so in Shin Megami Tensei 4, the big thing is that like if you're going into a fight and like there's 4 enemies and you have 4 party members and they go 4 times and you go 4 times, you will probably lose. That's just how the game is designed to be played. And so like you need to exploit weaknesses where like in most fights, your team ends up with like 12 turns compared to your opponent's like ideally 4. And then you have a very significant chance of winning. Like, and it's not even guaranteed at that point, but it's like more than 60% chance you're going to win if you can keep that up. That's a really weird ask, but it's definitely fun to mess around with. I really like ending up in situations where I end up with 8 turns and my enemies get 3 because they managed to hit a nullification into a fight that I bait them into. But the game is hard as shit. I turned it up a bit. Like, I think I'm like 1 below the top difficulty right now. And like, I remember walking into some fights like half asleep and getting my ass handed to me like, oh, you know what? Never mind. That makes sense. And then like, I'll sit up straight and, you know, get in the real gamer pose or whatever. And then I'll still lose. And then like, I'll think about it like, oh, wait, maybe I'm thinking about this whole fight incorrectly. And I really like the things that Shin Megami Tensei 4 does in the same way that I liked what Paper Mario the Origami King did with their battles, where like the RPG isn't about numbers, right? Like, not really. I mean, sure, numbers will help, but your battles are about solving the puzzle. There's an enemy in front of you, and you need to deal with them in a particular way. And there are a couple of ways to do it, but like, if you essentially make the misstep, if you don't learn the dance, then like, you're not going to win. But if you know the dance, you'll do it every time, because that's what it is. It's not a numbers game or even a dice roll. It's a dance. And that's what Shin Megami Tensei wants you to do. Thinking of it that way definitely freed me up in like learning how to adapt to the space, and it's been really helpful, but it is still difficult. You do need to be technically proficient, and you need to pay attention to what your opponent does the same way that you pay attention to like a partner in a tango. And sometimes you need to improvise, and that is harder in more situations than not. But like a lot of the sequences appear to actually be pretty well scripted. And it's not like the game is like shifting stuff to fuck with you. It's trying to do something. It wants you to like be a partner in this case. And it's weird being a partner with like Eldritch Horrors, you know, in more ways than one. But it is a neat game. And it's definitely one of the games that is like irreverent in terms of like things like mythology and like morality, I guess. But it seems earnest in like asking questions about like what it means to be a human in the world, or what happens when you suddenly find yourself among the powerless rather than the powerful. And those are really cool questions, and they seem to explore them well. And I hope as I continue, I'll be able to get to more developed explorations of those questions in those spaces, and maybe learn a couple dances along the way. I picked this up also because it's on 3DS, and 3DS is on its way out, and I never got to play it, even though I did play Shin Megami Tensei 4 Vanilla, and I'm having fun with it.
I think specifically in the context of the conversation that we just had, where we were talking about Bloodborne, there is a way to wave it away, which is that Shin Megami Tensei says, friend, if you spend enough time, you learn enough systems, you are diligent enough in your learning, there is a way for even the oldest and slowest amongst you to summit this peak.
That is true.
However, there is a place that Bloodborne exists where it says, you can know everything you need to know about what is happening here, but you are still fucked.
I've had this conversation before. Like, Bloodborne is one of those games that doesn't really test your head, it tests your hands. Your knowledge can soften the, like, summit for your hands, but not enough for, like, your hands to not be a part of the equation.
Right. And this is where, like, I think that, like, conversations about, like, things like, difficulty settings really come into play. Mm-hmm. If somebody wants to tell me that Shin Megami Tensei doesn't want to have a difficulty setting, I'll entertain that conversation, because it's one of those things where the tool set exists for players regardless of visual or reflex acuity. Mm-hmm. We might have a different conversation about things like hint systems. Right. That might be something, still requiring like the same combat to happen in the same spaces, but maybe being like, hey, shithead, try this, like something like that. Or like, have you considered trying this, shithead? I don't know why the hint has to call you a shithead, but it does. But Bloodborne, in order to have the experience that they want me to have, in order to have that moment that you described with Father Gascon, I simply can't be me. Because Father Gascon has tools that I don't have. And like, if what he's asking me to do is to look inside myself, I do, and I find myself wanting. But like Shin Megami Tensei is going to be like, get back to the fucking bullpen. And I'm like, okay, what's up to me is whether or not I want to go back to the bullpen. But if I do, I will get better. And so like, Rocky, I would ask that when Shin Megami Tensei 5 comes out, that is a time where I want you to be like my cheerleader and Sherpa up the mountain of difficulty, because I really, really, really want to like access the fun of that series. Frankly, a lot of the time management stuff and the sheer size of like the spin-off series in the form of Persona just like seems exhausting. Some of the like inherent like weirdness of the monsters on offer in Shin Megami Tensei, which is more appealing to me. So please remind me when that video game eventually comes the fuck out, Brian, you want this. Brian, summit that fucking mountain.
I can do that for you.
Awesome.
Just get this clip and put it on the Instagram, and then make Brian listen to it.
I think I'm willing to use that as the preview clip.
Heck yeah.
Man.
Throwback Thursday to the time we reminded Brian that he wanted a thing.
I feel like this is a good moment to like talk about like funny enough, a pre-order that I made in 2017.
Okay.
In 2017, I pre-ordered a video game called Paprika.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And this show had just gotten started. Like, I think it's like the first or second episode that I'm like, hey guys, I pre-ordered Paprika. But like somewhere like the first like episodes 1 through 3, I'm sure somebody could tell us, but like somewhere in that period of time, Brian pre-ordered fucking Paprika. It's probably the first or second episode because, Christ, you guys remember when we were bi-weekly? Supposed to weekly?
Oh, yeah, year one? Year one was a mess.
Yeah.
I don't remember year one. I make a point not to remember year one.
Yeah, that's probably for the best.
I feel like most podcasts year one is not, great.
Fair. So, the thing that Paprium promised was like, hey guys, I'm going to be a traditional 16-bit style brawler, which incorporates some like River City Ransom style elements with like big, beautiful like neon colors and giant sprites. Because in 2017, there really wasn't much of that going on. Flash forward to fucking 4 years later, where like the market is adequately serviced for brawlers. If you want new brawlers are coming out. They're good.
Yeah.
You can play a fucking brawler again. Like, it used to be that like there was this whole like looking down the nose view of brawlers that like the video game community had. Like, oh, they're just these like old quarter muncher stupid games that like you just walk to the right and hit dudes. And we kind of got past that finally. I don't know where that came from, but we got past it and we got a whole bunch of good brawlers. And then eventually in 2020, we got a legit numbered sequel to, it depends on who you ask, one of the top 2 brawler franchises of all time. It's always the debate. Is somebody a Streets of Rage or a Final Fight person? But people will inevitably tell you that the top 2 brawler franchises are those 2 series. So it was a legit numbered sequel, which meant that like it was approached with like a certain measure of suspicion. Because like, oh Jesus, if you're numbering this, if this is Streets of Rage 4, you best like come prepared.
True.
This has to be legit. One of the things that I think was probably like the biggest deal was when they're like, okay guys, and Yuzo Koshiro's doing the music. And I was like, okay, you've got Koshiro and Kawashima on the music, and those guys did the music for the original Streets of Rage games, Streets of Rage 1 through 3. And I think that like even if someone likes the Final Fight games more, if you're just like, hey, which series had better music? The answer is like undoubtedly Streets of Rage. Like, if you ask someone what made the Genesis sound cool, like there's something about like the weird muddy crunchiness of the music in Streets of Rage. Like, it's fucking cool. I normally chuckle at like all of those like expensive vinyl releases of music from 8 and 16-bit video games. Like, you fucking asshole, you just spent like $75 on vinyl for Mega Man 2 music. Like, that's ridiculous. Like, the original audio source is not analog, so what's with this fucking like ridiculous showpiece? But like, I just so love the music for Streets of Rage that like I'm like, oh god, like even I'm just kind of buckling at this. Like, I could go for the big fancy Streets of Rage vinyl.
Brian, I bought the double record crosscode vinyl soundtrack. It's supposed to get here like next month. I'm so hyped.
All right, so like you know what I mean by like it reaches a point where you're like, all right, I'm getting ready to buckle. Yeah. So this game is so fucking good. There's this like push-pull feeling, kind of like a difficulty yo-yo that I would say that like existed in like the original Streets of Rage like space, where you would like go through these like periods of just like, oh god, like things aren't so bad. Like, Streets of Rage does a good job of like yo-yoing tension as you're moving through the levels. And that was something that I thought might be a problem with the modern like appreciation, fetishization of difficulty. I thought that what we would get is like a constant stream of impossible to kill dudes and they'd be like, see, we're good. That did not happen. They understood like the way that like, you know, like a brawler needs to breathe and like the time that you need like away from the satisfaction that comes from like clearing a screen full of dudes and then like punching stuff to like find power-ups so that way you can like soldier on. It's something else which like I like is that while still like embracing that like very much like early to mid 90s aesthetic,
Mm-hmm.
they didn't get lost in an early to mid 90s like art style. Overuse of pixel art in video games. Like especially when video games are like when they want older fans to play, there's a lot of pixel art. And Streets of Rage instead goes for like kind of like the way the spaces are laid out and the way the game looks evokes that early mid 90s like style, but instead gives you like this like beautiful like very lush hand drawn art. And so you're achieving that like 90s aesthetic with more resources. You know, that feels good, man. It felt very good to play Streets of Rage 4, which did not eschew like what was like available to them. Like there's more depth to like what they're available to do with like the sound processing. There's a richness to the art. The gameplay feels steeped in all the rules of a brawler, but it is definitely in the way it uses available technology a modern game. And so it just kind of feels like the world which Paprium is ultimately being released into is a world where a lot of what Paprium was answering for and providing a solution for has been done by more enterprising and faster developers in the meantime. I can't speak to Paprium yet. My copy has not yet fucking arrived as it slowly ships its way across the world in a cargo container, as well as my fucking fight stick for the Genesis, because I was one of those assholes who bought the like $220 fight stick. But you know what? Those fight sticks for Paprium are now like selling on eBay for like at least $500. So
You're gonna flip the stick like it's like some Yeezys? Like Jesus.
right. But yeah, Streets of Rage 4. Easier to get than Paprium and pretty damn fun.
Okay. So the next game that I played is something that I got into not quite the before times, but like the beginning of the end of the before times. I think it became available in February, but I didn't start playing it till March when lockdowns were starting to happen. I did lose my job and I had a lot of free time and I spent a lot of it in my bed playing this particular game, Teamfight Tactics.
I mean, honestly, that sounds like a dream.
It was certainly a time.
A stress dream, but still a dream.
I mean, I got pretty good at Teamfight Tactics. I had played some of the auto battlers already. I played a lot of Dota Auto Chess. I dipped into Dota Underlords. I didn't feel great about it. But Teamfight Tactics seemed to balance the things that I liked about Dota Auto Chess while being made of characters that I already knew and were interested in. And I spent a lot of time with it. I got to Platinum and Ranked, so that was fun. But outside of that, I'm not sure if the game is really anything special. I think it's a bit more than a cash grab. I think that the team at Riot Games that's working on Teamfight Tactics is interested in making sure that the game feels fresh. And they are using these kind of like themed seasons to like introduce new gameplay mechanics with familiar characters. And like they play out as basically like characters with like different skins, which is kind of fun. The little dude that you have run around in like the circle mechanic is like a really neat comeback mechanic that isn't present in other auto chess games. Where, like, if you're doing worse, you have a better chance of picking a unit that may help your build or fishing for an item that you need currently. And that could be enough for you to get closer to coming back into the game. The game's meta shifts wildly from week to week, which is difficult to keep up with if you're trying to play, like, consistently. But if you want to pop in every once in a while, chances are you might pick something that works very well, as long as you, like, stick to a particular build, which is neat. Since, like, you know, that March when I got really into TFT, I have played it on and off. It has become a bit of a comfort game for me. And I do like just sitting down with it, like, whenever I have, like, a half hour where I kind of want to turn my brain off. Even just, like, idly, like, messing around or whatever is pretty nice when I don't want to be typing and I don't want to hold a controller, but I want to do a little bit more than watch something on Netflix, which is a very particular niche. Not sure if everyone has that, but it's definitely been that for me.
I kind of feel like there has to be one of those out there that might be for me. Because I remember when Teamfight Tactics came out, like I fucked with it with a little, you know, for a little bit, but like in pretty short order, Hearthstone was like, check out ours.
Right, Battlegrounds.
And with Battlegrounds, like, they rolled out Battlegrounds initially. Most of the cards in Battlegrounds were cards that were also part of, like, the traditional meta. And so, like, they had battle cries or death rattles or other keywords that you were used to from Hearthstone. Your understanding of those keywords would inform, like, your understanding of how they would work in Battlegrounds. And so it would help. But then they started to, like, introduce a giant volume of cards that were only for Battlegrounds and keywords that only existed in Battlegrounds.
Which, like, disrupts the idea of it being like a comfort game.
Right. And doing stuff, like, with much, much greater frequency than they do with every other mode of the game, rotating cards and heroes in and out. Right. And so they're like, hey, new month, we're rotating out these 4 heroes. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like,
ironically, that is actually pretty in line for, like, most auto battlers.
But it's a thing that, like, completely turned me off about them.
No, I get that.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So, like, I don't know. Like, hopefully somebody will find one that just... Because they seem to be this, like, sweet spot where they're a little bit more to do than a tapping game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we've talked about, like, your tappers. Like, this is more than a tapper, but it's a lot less than a lot of other things. So, like, it is, like, if it's firing right, it really is a sweet spot. But I haven't found one yet that can make me go boom shakalaka.
For sure.
But speaking of going boom shakalaka, I played me some NBA Jam this year.
How was that, ma'am?
NBA Jam is a very good video game, and there should be more video games like NBA Jam.
What's special about NBA Jam?
What is good about NBA Jam is that, like, you can give exactly 0 fucks about how the game of basketball operates in the real world and have a very, very good time with it.
Does that mean it's Blaseball but for basketball?
I guess it is also high fantasy basketball, but it's less so than Blaseball. It's more like heroic fantasy basketball, I guess.
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay.
NBA Jam is to basketball as the original Super Mario Kart was to racing games.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, there are things that, like, both of them do to, like, keep their players engaged and hooked, which are, like, very silly and very satisfying. The amount of, if you're, like, say, within 2, and you have 1 second on the clock, and you shoot to tie, the chances that you are going to make that shot are so good. The sweetness that they apply on their rubber banding is very, very blue shell. NBA Jam understands that, like, close games are exciting and that, like, ridiculous shots are exciting, whether that ridiculous shot be, like, an impossibly stupid dunk where the ball is literally on fire and the announcer is going, he's on fire!
Yeah.
And you shatter the fucking backboard with your flaming basketball. Or, just as exciting, is you're down by 2 with 1 second left, and you've just gotten possession from 3/4 of a court away, and you execute, which I can only describe as the Mario Party 2 bad of shots, where you shoot from entirely across the entire fucking court, and you see it just, like, swish.
That's NBA Jam.
That is NBA Jam.
Oh my god, that sounds like so much bullshit.
Okay, it is stressful.
It's like Super Smash Brothers bullshit, though.
Yeah, NBA Jam is like the party game of basketball games.
Yes, it is.
Like, if you're going to sit around and try to argue over street cred, don't play NBA Jam. You're both just going to get upset.
Yeah.
But, like, if you want to fuck around with some basketball, put on NBA Jam.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Like, I think that was actually part of... There is some NBA Jam in Pyre's DNA.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's something that I wish, like, more and more modern games would embrace, is that, like, okay, it's cool to get silly, it's cool to get goofy. Like, nobody would ever actually announce a basketball game like the way NBA Jam is announced.
Yeah.
How is NBA Jam announced?
The commentator treats every moment like it is the most exciting fucking thing ever.
I would make one argument that a Space Jam, a modern remake of a Space Jam video game would be announced that way.
I could see it.
Hey, video games. Lean in close. Lean in close. You've come to us before for your free ideas.
We have them.
Yeah. If someone released a 2-on-2 game that was essentially NBA Jam, but was Space Jam, just like, here's Space Jam the game. I can't even describe how much money that would make.
Definitely be an outrageous amount of money.
Metric shit tons. It would be Scrooge McDuck money. Especially if what you did was like you sold that game for like $20 and then you just had like fucking season passes of new characters. Various like you're like, okay, this season you're gonna get Yosemite Sam, a new Monstar, and Bill Murray. Like I'd be like, fuck.
Like, all right, I guess I'm getting the fucking season pass.
Yep. Like this season you're getting like LeBron, you're gonna get Lola and Buster Bunny and like Scorpion. I don't know.
Lola and Buster? Are we bringing the kiddos in?
I'm just saying that with like the season pass format, you got a chance to get Goofy.
Oh, God. And just think of like all the Goofy cameos. You'd have Shaq, Dwayne Wade would want to be in it. They'd have like fucking Roadrunner and Coyote.
And because of the structure of Space Jam, it allows for characters to show up who don't necessarily make sense to show up in like a normal basketball game. But if you told me that John Mulaney was going to be in the season pass for a Space Jam video game, I wouldn't bat an eye.
Brian, imagine like the week when John Mulaney, Kevin Hart, and Dexter from Dexter's Lab shows up.
Jesus Christ. Like, see, this just prints money. It just prints fucking money.
They get the rights to fucking Urkel. And, like, I don't know if you guys know, but, like, Urkel's fucking nasty on the court.
And that was part of the fun of NBA Jam, the game, is that, like, when people found out that, like, you could put in initials and, like, play as secret characters who weren't actually NBA players, more people in arcades were like, well, why be Scottie Pippen when I could be Bill Clinton?
Bill Clinton, Obama, and Yosemite Sam. All one patch.
Right. I remember when NBA Jam dropped and I found out that I could be fucking Bill Clinton in that video game. I was like, are you fucking serious? And like, that was literally the next thing I did. I put down my copy of EGM and went and did it. So like, I recognize that you're likely not going to get many politicians who are willing to like play ball with like likeness rights, but I could totally see something like AOC doing it and then like giving the money she would get from likeness rights to charity.
What about Obama?
Obama will do it. He actually plays basketball.
Exactly. And so like if you come to him and you're like, hey man, we're making an NBA Jam style game, which is Space Jam, like I could just like, of course, I consider it a civic duty. Like just.
And you're telling me this is popular with the kids? Is it like it has a battle pass? Is that like Fortnite? My kids keep talking about Fortnite.
Oh my! Oh no! Oh no!
I got like my only thing about Obama, which I hope he'd agree to, is that we'd have his character say the line like for real from the meme from his inauguration, where it's just like, "Anime is real, Pokemon are real, Geodude is real and strong, and he's my friend."
I would just like him to be like, Space Jam is real.
The Monstars are real.
Yeah, exactly. Just like that. And then, like, if he scores, like, the winning point in a game, he just goes, thanks, Obama.
This is the kind of play space that NBA Jam is.
Yeah.
The version I was playing was the tournament edition boards before the NBA made them take out the Mortal Kombat characters. Yeah, which meant that like I could put in my fucking, put in the initials and play as Scorpion, which is so hilarious. So like when you get the pick and it's like Scorpion from downtown, and I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ, this is ridiculous.
Wait, hold on. I got another one. It's okay. So Panda, Danabiki, and Tweety Bird, all one patch.
Oh my god,
I could do this forever.
What does Tweety Bird do? He can't pick up.
Okay, so
ball.
like Tweety, I think can't dribble. I think that's the trade-off. But they have like the fastest like continuous pass in the game. So like if Tweety's like at the 3-point line, you can bounce to Tweety and out to the other end before most characters can react. but he can't dribble.
Ah, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. I like this.
Did you see that next month's patch is Wilt Chamberlain, Frylock, and Leslie Jones?
Yo, dude, let's go! But, like, for real?
That's what I'm fucking saying.
Wait, can they have Wilt from wait, is his name Wilt or is it Will from Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends? That's like based on Wilt Chamberlain?
Yeah! Oh my god, that'd be great!
If we could get these rights, which, you know, it sounds like a nightmare, but like sounds like it'd be so much fun.
Well, no, that's why I'm trying to
Here's the thing.
confine my ideas to animated properties that Warner Brothers owns.
Okay, so here's the problem, though. You get Wilton and Blue automatically. Like, if Wilt is on the court, Blue is your announcer. You cannot change that. And he's pissed about it the entire time. Because he's like, that should be me down there. And it's like, no, it should not. You are not tall enough. But Tweety Bird's down there.
I love the idea of guest announcers. That sounds fantastic.
Yes. You see, like, they tried that shit for years with Call of Duty, and I could not give a fuck. Like, if you want to give me, like, the Snoop Dogg ice pack for, like, Call of Duty, I could give two shits. But if you tell me that you got the Snoop Dogg announce pack for a game which is essentially NBA Jam...
That sounds lit, actually.
I will give you money right now. Right now.
Oh my god, and he's just like, man, there's that bird. He's so small.
He can pass, though. I was like, holy shit.
Ugh.
This is great. I like it.
Yeah, and so like that is the promise of NBA Jam. There's not enough games which are silly and that's that kind of way. It combines so much of the stuff which is fun about Smash Bros. A lot of the bullshit which people like about like Mario Kart or Mario Party is like found in like abundance. But because of the way like sports games are for the most part made now, they're all very serious and very stuffy, and like very, very rarely do we get like baseball games that like, you know, play outside of those spaces. Like sometimes we get like Super Mega Baseball, which is really, really good, but like Super Mega Baseball kind of feels like the exception that proves the rule.
Is that why Blaseball did so well?
No, I think Blaseball's an entirely different thing. Like,
okay.
Yeah, like NBA Jam, it feels like having your friends over for pizza and like Smash Brothers, and Blaseball is like letting yourself get caught up in how deep does this rabbit hole go? How cool is this fandom? Like,
okay, yeah, I see.
The world needs NBA Jam Friday nights again, I think is my argument. Like, NBA Jam and NFL Blitz were fucking tent poles of this civilization. We are worse off for not having them around.
I mean, I kind of miss like NBA NFL Street. Those were definitely a vibe.
Somebody just came along and was like, hey guys, these need to be significantly more serious, less. Like, no, give me the goofy. Like, you're gonna get me in, you're gonna get me, and I have no interest in like whatever the fuck 2K is doing right now with basketball. I don't care. I just don't care. Whatever EA does with basketball, I don't care.
So what's next? Monster Hunter World Iceborne. Monster Hunter Iceborne isn't a new game. I've talked about it a bit on the show. This year was mostly the end of its content, where like Capcom heard the rest of us talking shit, where it's just like, Monster Hunter World's pretty cool, but it's not that hard. I feel like I'm just roasting stuff whenever it shows up. And then it came out with two particular bosses back to back. We got Alatreon, which is one of the first bosses that actually require you to like pay attention to elements in the game. Like if you don't have elemental damage, you will not clear the fight. And there were definitely people that completely broke it. There are definitely videos on the internet of 4 people fighting Alatreon together with 0 armor, which means if they did get hit by something, they would be one shot, and they killed it in less than 6 minutes. But it was a fight that angered a lot of people that had just been cruising along and like were forced to like engage with like different parts of the game that we had basically skipped over. And then the game gave us its final boss fight, which was Fatalis, which is an extinction level event, which in a fun lore idea is that it is responding specifically to Safajiva in an ecological sense, where Safajiva's presence causes overgrowth of everything around it. Fatalis is simply a dragon of destruction that will literally burn the planet to a crisp if no one gets in its way.
Jesus.
Gotcha. Love that.
Fucking Fatalis is a terrifying beast. It is a long, difficult, multi-stage fight, but it's really cool and really cinematic. You swoop down to fight it first, and it's a good idea to sneak around and drop some bombs first. And like you can't even hit most of it because it's just too fucking tall. But if you beat on it enough, it like slumps over and you can swing at its head for a while. And then it gets angry and decides to try to melt the weird castle that it's hiding in. And you have to like dive behind this like metal thing that it literally melts, but doesn't kill you. And then after that, you fight it a bit more and you have access to like a train track with a Gatling gun. It's like, it's fucking sick. And then you hide behind a gigantic metal door, which is the only way to avoid its giant fire breath attack. And then you fight it to the end, which is like another like 10 minutes on solo. If you have a great team, like, you know, band of brothers or whatever, you could probably do it in another 6. And so like, it's a really tough, long fight that really challenged everything that we've learned over the past 2 years with Monster Hunter World. And it was a beautiful way to cap off the end of the game. But it was hard as fuck. But I'm thankful. I had a great time, and I'm looking forward to the next thing that this particular Monster Hunter team does. Monster Hunter Rise is being handled by a parallel Monster Hunter development team, which I'm also very excited for. Play Monster Hunter Rise.
Man.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I still don't know. Like,
Brian says, I wish I liked Monster Hunter.
yeah, he does.
Yeah.
He does. The thing he says. That's a fair way to describe it. It always just, like, whenever, like, Rocky describes it, I'm like, man, that sounds like fun.
Too bad I hate Monster Hunter.
Too bad I hate Monster Hunter.
It's okay. Maybe I'll get in the habit of streaming or something. And, like, I can do, like, the Monster Hunter Rise stuff. Because, like, Rise is also pretty cool. Like, instead of just mounting monsters, you can puppet monsters now. You can run them into each other. And, like, that shit's cool. And, like, everyone kind of has, like, specialized abilities that are really neat. Monster Hunter Rise it's definitely pretty fun. I'm fucking with it. I'm having a great time. If you want to try the demo, Brian, you want to throw some games together, once again, you know how to find me.
I do. Man, that fucking video game.
Mm-hmm.
Monster Hunter owes me tequila. My next video game that I played kind of like rounds out my Williams Midway nostalgia tour, but I kind of like plunged back into fucking with Mortal Kombat because there's so much about Mortal Kombat which is smart, and there's so much about Mortal Kombat which is like they were flying by their seat of their pants, and it's like it's really interesting to like go back and like see that and experience that. Just like little touches. Finding out the reason that Sonya, her fatality in Mortal Kombat 1 is that they described to the actress who was doing motion capture the idea of fatalities. And she was like, oh, that seems terribly unpleasant. That seems like really, really horrible. So what if instead I just like blew a little kiss? And they're like, okay. So that is why in Mortal Kombat 1, Sonya blows a little kiss, and I guess, much to her horror, what it ends up doing is causing the recipient to catch on fire, and then their skeleton falls to its knees.
Right.
But, like, I never knew why Johnny Cage's capture in the game looks a little bit different than everybody else's.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because the actor who played Johnny Cage went first. He was the one who did his mocap first. And they were, like, legit telling that guy shit like, hey, when you jump in the air, try and fall slower. I'm not even kidding.
What the fuck? How?
That's legit insane. Like, dude, what?
I'm sorry. Fight gravity.
Yeah, they're like, do a
And
dive
win.
kick. Like he legit got told to do a dive kick. And like,
how?
yes,
What?
yes. After I like threw myself into the history of the game, I wanted to go back and play it and like see the way it like lured. Like I specifically went back and played like the arcade version, you know. And then I spent a little bit of time with the Genesis version and a little bit of time with the Super Nintendo version because like all three are like steeped in history in like very, very different ways. Like you could never fight Ermac in Mortal Kombat 1. You couldn't. He was not a character that could be engaged in
Combat.
in battle. If you ever saw Ermac, it was because the machine was throwing an error and it needed time to sort itself out. So, like, if you saw Ermac, it was like, Ermac awaits. The machine's just buying itself time. That's it. That's all that's happening. And that's fucking hilarious to me. Their solution, as opposed to, like, say, just throwing to a general attract mode or kicking back to the title screen or anything like that, is to create something that would make lying 12-year-olds on playgrounds across America talk about for months.
Oh my god.
To be fair, I was one of those lying 12-year-olds. I remember lying about Star Fox, saying that there was a way that you could play the whole game backwards. Where, like, after you clear the game, you start on, like, Venom, and you work your way back to, like, Corneria, but it's, like, destroyed. I have active imagination.
Okay, I was a lying 12-year-old about Pokemon, but at the time I wasn't actually lying. I just didn't know what shiny Pokemon were.
Oh, sick.
So I was like, I don't know, like, I got a Drowsy that was purple, and everyone was like, no, you didn't. I was like, yeah, I did! It was purple! Why will no one believe me? I swear to God.
You're an accused lying 12-year-old.
Fuck it, I got fucking 12 of those things. Why are they purple? I don't know. And then, like, literally 2 games later, they were like, oh, shiny Pokemon are a different color. And I was like, ha! Not crazy.
I think my first shiny was a Ponyta, and I didn't know what it was about, but I loved it because it had blue flames.
That's fucking sick.
Yeah.
It's so, like, it was crazy that there was so much shit in this game that was designed to, like, feed the fodder of schoolyard bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
I deliberately made a point of, like, when I went back and played, it's like, all right, I'm going to wait till I'm on the pit stage, and I'm going to get my perfect for, like, my double perfect, because you had to beat whatever opponent you had on the pit level. So double flawless victory, only using kicks, and then do your fatality. And if you fuck up the fatality even once, and your fatality includes a punch as part of the keystroke combination, well, then you're just fucked, because it just reads it as a punch entry, which means that you've now punched during the round. So it's easiest to do a fatality which involves a kick, because if you fuck up the keystroke combination, at least you only pressed a kick button. But anyway, like, I did this because I was like, oh my god, when I was a kid, I never fought Reptile in the arcade. But, like, there's something wild about, like, that transition to, like, fighting at the bottom of the pit against Reptile. You're like, yes, yeah, motherfucker! Just, like, because it was the quintessential thing kids claimed that they did. You're like, I fought Reptile. Like, here's how you do it. And then, like, and the steps to fight Reptile were just sounded so stupid. Like,
right.
Yeah, I was like, what do you mean you only have to use kicks? Obviously, like, Mortal Kombat 2 comes along, and you've got Jade and Smoke. And it's like, yeah, this guy pops up from the corner of the screen, and he says toasty, and when he goes toasty, you have to, like, press down, and then, like, the start button on the arcade machine. Like, that doesn't sound real.
Yeah, it didn't.
It didn't. And so, like, the reason I like Mortal Kombat and the reason I wanted to spend time with it feels a lot like the way you engage with, like, say, Doki Doki. Everything feels like this cool fucking secret mystery that you just can't wait for your friends to experience, where you're just like, oh my god, have you seen this yet? Have you seen that yet? Like, oh my god, it's so fucking cool. And, like, it's... And just like it, all of the superficial trappings, like, the construction is good. But it's the way it presents secrets and the way that secrets are a reward, and you feel like you're joining a club by playing the game.
Mm-hmm.
And there's not really a lot of space for that in the modern FGC, and that's not even really something that, like, Mortal Kombat does much of anymore, because now they have their whole, like, crypt with a K, where you go to spend coins with a K. The more time you spend in the crypt and buy things with coins, you just, like, unlock things by getting on a treadmill, which is very much like modern video games.
Yeah.
And the way you unlock things in, like, Mortal Kombat and Mortal Kombat 2 is you unlock things by doing bullshit and talking with other bullshitters. And that was fun. That was great. I think that's a very specific niche that if somebody came along and said, hey, here's a fighting game which plays like a fighting game, but it is replete with secret bullshit, secret characters, secret attacks, secret stages, secret progression methods, I would plunge in. I would get on my waders and be like, all right,
That was definitely a dimension of Melee that kept a lot of people invested.
Right. I remember there was something about Melee, that experience of like whenever that new challenger would approach, where you're just like, oh, fuck! Like, who's this asshole? Like, when you started to experience characters that you didn't know, where you're like, who's this fucking guy? What's a Marth? You know?
I've definitely, like, thought pretty hard about what kind of world we'd live in if instead of, say, with Ultimates, like, releases where they added DLC with, like, characters from other places, like, which is also, like, its own event in and of itself. But instead of, you know, like, announcing them at, like, a direct and saying, they can be yours for $4.99 and they come with a stage, they just kind of threw it in the game someplace. And how that would play out, like, I mean, obviously, they'd have a lot less money. Money is what drives, like, the new DLC characters, like, almost exclusively at this point.
Right.
But imagine, like, what would have happened if, like, instead of just telling everyone, hey, Cloud's going to be in the game in 2 months, they run a patch and maybe a data miner says, hey, there's a new character. We think it's Cloud. And it's like, what? Cloud's in Smash Bros? And then there's just, like, this scramble to, like, pull Cloud out of the game.
How do you unlock Cloud, though?
Right.
Yeah.
Imagine the fucking uproar. The data miner goes, yeah, so the next dude I think is Minecraft Steve?
Right!
And everyone's just like, what the fuck do you bullshit? What do you mean Minecraft Steve? Actually fuck off. And people just see him and they're like, no way, that's gotta be photoshopped.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that, like, that Frog Fractions quality that Mortal Kombat and Melee had is something that keeps, like, people like me on a treadmill with a fighting game. Like, because I remember playing Melee and be like, oh my god, like once I realized that there were characters that could be unlocked, I'm like, I'm unlocking everybody, and like, I don't care what it takes.
And there were, like, big questions because especially in Melee, less so in the other games, which, you know, for the competitive scene, it's definitely easier, I suppose. Like, for example, in Melee, like, you didn't just unlock everyone just by fighting. Like, I guess technically, if you played enough multiplayer matches, you'd unlock everyone. That is a way that you could do that. But, like, if you're playing, like, at home on your own or whatever, like, not always with, like, a band of, like, 8 people waiting to see who's next, you'd unlock characters by, like, exploring different game modes. This week I played Target Test and, like, oh, shit, this triggered a new character and stuff like that. I remember when I got Ultimate, all the available characters, everyone was trying to find a way to, like, speed run unlocking everyone because everyone wanted to play, like, competitive. That was the scene that I was in. And, like, everyone was just, like, you know, playing classic mode on repeat, just, like, repeatedly dying so that they could trigger another, like, new challenger. And they just did that, like, 65 times. And it's just, like, it definitely misses something core to, like, that unlocking experience.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun to get into a fighting game and just poke around at, like, what you think are the edges of the experience and discover, like, the weird shit. One of the things that I enjoyed so much about Mortal Kombat 3 was there was this thing where you could enter codes that were, like, different symbols on the versus screen. You have the ability to enter, like, 3 of the things, and then, like, whoever you're, like, fighting against has the ability to enter, like, 3 of the things. And so you're like, okay, what can this unlock? There were, like, really cool shit in there, like, play Pong. Just like, all right, like, you put it, like, we both put in the code, so when it brings us to the screen now, we're playing Pong. Or set up your characters to have regenerating health. Like, just so much stuff.
I would like it where there's a fighting game and, like, 10 years after the release, not a day before then, some weird shit unlocks. And only if you're playing that game, like, those 10 days, and then you're like, hey, I unlocked this thing, and the whole internet is gonna be like, no, you fucking didn't. It's like, no, I did, but I did, though.
You know what, Teagues?
Yeah, that would be annoying as hell, but fun.
I'm not involved in game development. However, on the off chance that I do, and I get the opportunity to touch a fighting game, I will put something like that in my fucking contract. That
would be great.
Where it's just like, I'm not going to work on this unless you can promise me that I can put one thing that will unlock based off, like maybe someone can cheese it by manipulating the date, but if they don't know it's there, it's never going to show up.
Right.
If it hits that date, something wild's going to happen. And that's it. I'll do it entirely myself.
I would support that wholeheartedly. Please do.
Rocky, tell me about a video game.
Oh, shit. Wait, hold on. Which one is it? Oh, hey! Okay. The next game that I played entirely on a whim. I was like, this looks kind of cool. This chick's kind of thick. Whatever, let's go. I played Paradise Killer. Holy shit. Okay, so Paradise Killer is a open world murder mystery detective game that's drenched in a vaporwave aesthetic. You play as a character. Her name is Lady Love Dies. She is a formerly exiled investigator who has been summoned because the universe that she's a part of, which is supposed to go out of commission in the next 24 hours, has been plagued by a murder. And the murder of one of its high-ranking officials, which are called Immortals, which I assumed are initially immortal. I guess they can receive mortal wounds. But there are no other investigators, because you were locked away, because you committed some terrible thing millennia ago. And you've been told there is a murder. Your job as investigator is to find out what happened. Report to me your findings, says the judge, and sends you on your way. And at that point, you're free to explore the world, or if you are particularly ballsy, you can just turn right around, walk back to the judge and say, hey, judge, I know everything that's happened. And then you'll hear testimony from everyone that was potentially involved, and you can identify a perpetrator, whomever they may be, and the game can end there. Or, you can take the bait and traverse the world and talk to the people there and piece together what happened. But you are free to come to your own conclusions. The game ends exactly when you want it to. And you can explore this weird, terrible, tortured, beautifully soundtracked world and find out what happened, or whatever version you decide. My initial investigation found the correct plot, but there was a second competing plot that I didn't completely find until I dug a bit deeper. The world is weird. There are all sorts of strange symbols and tools that you can investigate. There's an information broker that trades exclusively in blood crystals. You can find out about the previous 24 iterations of the seemingly immortal world and the fucked up place where you're in. You can talk to the various denizens that live there and find their allegiances, their friendships, their loves and their losses. It's a really strange and eclectic game that wants you to poke at it and jump around and explore to your heart's content. It is a very good, very strange interactive experience that I had incredible trouble trying to put down. And I think everyone should probably play it, at least for a little bit, just to see what it's like. And I hope there are more games like it in the future. It's not perfect. It has significant flaws, but it takes risks and tries to push what you can do in an interactive experience, especially with murder genre.
Strong agree, Rocky. There was a game that came out, I want to say at this point, 5 years ago, that was called Murdered Soul Suspect.
Okay.
In that game, you are fucking dead. You're a dead detective in Salem, Massachusetts, trying to solve your own murder.
Sick.
In addition to that, you also encounter hordes and hordes of ghosts of people who have died over the time that the town of Salem has existed. So you might encounter someone who died in the 1600s or somebody who died 50 years ago. So you encounter all these ghosts in Salem. And you end up solving mysteries for them too. And the way you solve mysteries in the game functions very, very much like L.A. Noire. In between all of that, you're exposed to this open world space where there are these wraith monsters who feast on the souls of the dead. And so navigating the open world space has a lot of stealth game mechanics.
Okay.
Very much. There was a lot about the game. It was very rough around the edges, but the underlying ideas were all very, very interesting. Mm-hmm. The stuff that it surfaced and said here are the ideas that we're trying were things that interested me, and even the things that it got wrong were still worth looking at. Mm-hmm. I can definitely get behind the idea that sometimes a game that doesn't stick the landing is still a game that is worth your time because they went places.
For sure.
Yeah. I want to do 3 as a group because they represent a group, because the reason that I dug into them was all for the same reason.
Okay.
something that happened this year was that Codemasters got bought.
By Take-Two, right?
It ended up not being Take-Two at the 11th hour.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think it was Take-Two withdrew their bid and Codemasters accepted the deal from Electronic Arts, which made me happier because the way that EA treats its history versus the way Take-Two treats its history are different. Like, I'm still not in love with the way EA treats its history, but they're at least more mindful of it than Take-Two is. Take-Two is very much like a machine which is designed to keep on feeding the furnace that is Grand Theft Auto Online. Just fucking period. Full stop. And the reason I was kind of like bummed out by the idea of like Codemasters being bought at all is that like Codemasters has this history of taking strange risks. One of the things that they did back in the day was they released a totally unlicensed peripheral for the NES in 1992. A series of bad ideas for a variety of reasons. Like, in 1992, gaming had already moved on to the Genesis and Super Nintendo, so who gives a shit about your NES peripheral? Retailers were like very mindful of not wanting to, at that point, make Nintendo or Sega mad. It was definitely a risk and reward system to release this stuff from Codemasters. This particular thing, which is of interest to me, is a thing called the Aladdin Deck Enhancer.
Okay.
NES cartridges have like a whole bunch of chips inside of them. Mm-hmm. Codemasters realized a lot of those chips are the same every time. And they're like, so what if we made a cartridge that uses all of these chips that never change, and then make a smaller cartridge that nests inside of it that just has the stuff about the game. Okay. Which means that we can produce games for significantly cheaper. And so I was like, okay, what kind of weird stuff was released for the Aladdin Deck Enhancer for the NES? So that like prompted me to try two games, which were Linus Spacehead's Cosmic Adventure and Super Robin Hood. Linus Spacehead's Cosmic Adventure is like very much like a traditional adventure game. There is an open world that you are exploring, you are picking up and interacting with items, you are talking with people. It has a very, very elegant menu system for like navigating the world. The process of like dealing with an adventure game with the NES's like 2-button controller can be daunting if like the design of the game is bad. Linus Spacehead's Cosmic Adventure does a good job of like UI design, so that way you never feel limited by how few things you can do with the controller. When you like materially impact the world, there's an overworld map where you'll see like a physical change in the space. Like it's very much like seeing like a castle crumble on the Super Mario World overworld map feeling, where you're like, like I did that, like I made that change. And like seeing that accomplished on the NES is like a very, very like satisfying feeling. Mm-hmm. It's like something that you like started to see like pop up here and there, and like, you know, the 16-bit era, like, you know, like where changes to the maps in like Demon's Crest or Mario World, but like here's this game on the NES doing it, and it does it really well. There are things that are lethal in the game, and if you die, it has a good understanding of like what shit to make you do over again and what shit to not make you do over again. It has a good understanding of like, oh, this is a puzzle game. Dropping you back into the puzzle part is what needs to happen. Like not really having you like say repeat any kind of like platforming challenges that may occur. The writing is clever. The look of the game is good. Like something which is, I think, most indicative of when Codemasters was being cool, weird, and creative. This is probably a very, very like solid example. It has the look, it has the feel. Like it's Euro as fuck. There was definitely like a very strong feel to European European game development. The 80s and 90s. When you played a Euro game, you definitely knew you were playing a Euro game. I advise anybody who wants to screw with this, please, 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 if you want to play the game, make sure you play Linus Spacehead's Cosmic Adventure. Okay? There is an earlier game in the series which is just called Linus Spacehead. Do not fuck with that game. That is I think there might be an angry video game nerd video about the first one, because like there's just this meaningless, terrible part with bubbles, which is cruel and unnecessary and awful, and no one should experience it. but like Linus Spacehead Cosmic Adventure, there's lots of like beautiful pinks and purples and like weird shapes, and it feels like a proto Dexter's Laboratory in a lot of ways to me.
Okay.
Yeah, it's got a strong vibe. The other game, that came out of like exploring the stuff for the Aladdin deck enhancer was Super Robin Hood. And this is because like I was like, I'm really curious about the Oliver twins and who the Oliver twins. I kind of like fell into this hole there. They are these like twin brothers who like told their parents that they didn't want to go to college, they wanted to make video games, and their parents told them like, okay, well, if you can make the same amount of money that we make in a whole year over the course of one summer, then we won't make you go to college and you can be video game designers. Because they thought that was a fuck off impossible task. It's really, really good. And they made a shit ton of money off of Super Robin Hood. They made as much money as their parents do in a single year over the course of that summer from that game. And I like the way the game is designed. There's things about like the way it structures its space and the choices it makes its players take on. Robin Hood has a bow and arrow that he can shoot at enemies. And he also has the ability to duck. But Robin Hood cannot duck and shoot his bow and arrow at the same time. Robin Hood takes fall damage, but not from any height. It has to be like a relatively significant height in order for him to take fall damage. And like as you like explore, it has like 6 connected levels. And so it feels a lot like a very restrained, much more like patient, methodical Castlevania. The game is like older than its NES release, because like that was something else that like Codemasters did, was that Codemasters was big into the Euro PC development space. And so like they were putting out stuff on things like the fucking Vectrex and like the Commodore 64 and various other PCs that were like popular in the European scene. And Super Robin Hood originally came out on the ZX Spectrum and the Amstrad in the UK in like 1986. This very restrained game, which is all about like navigating like this large connected space, kind of feels like it is working with a lot of the same ideas as Castlevania, but like the way it has you engage with combat and the way it has you engage with like like physical puzzles of like navigating the space seem different than some of the choices that like Castlevania made. And they're both so early in the lineage of that kind of game making. I'd be really curious to like see more stuff which kind of like goes with like more slow and intentional kind of movement around the space, because it kind of feels like the games that did take off, which came from like Japanese developers, your characters move with like some speed and some urgency. I think the last Castlevania game I played where the character I was felt fuck off slow was probably Castlevania 4 for the Super Nintendo. Like I really feel like he feels fuck off slow in that. But I think that like once you get to Symphony of the Night, like there's no more slow protagonist in Castlevania. I think there was certainly definitely a point past which like Samus was never slow. So let me see something which is like more methodical and more patient in the way you interact with the space. Like give me something which is cut from the Super Robin Hood cloth. And then like the last game is not a Codemasters game, but is also like a looking back at the NES games, was that like I was like, man, I could really play some like RC Pro-Am. And the reason I wanted to like specifically interact with RC Pro-Am, and I was specifically thinking about RC Pro-Am adopts a fixed camera as its modus operandi. Like the camera is going to sit here, and like in virtually every racing game that comes out now, your fixed camera either is in the driver's seat or behind the vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
And so like the idea of like having to orient yourself to the track in order to move isn't something that really happens much of anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You're more worried about orienting your vehicle than orienting yourself to the track.
Right.
It creates for like a different kind of movement experience. And there were like things that like RC Pro-Am did with its visual design, like, inform and clue the viewer in that, that these are little tiny cars in like a space. It's like the way that they would use like larger objects in that space was like fun and cute, and I kind of want more of that. Honestly, it feels like something that Nintendo should really just kill at and like succeed at. I would very, very much enjoy some kind of like Mario Kart spin-off, which is RC cars. Like, please give me a Mario Kart game where the various Mario Kart drivers are standing around the track holding remote controls. I want to see a pouting Bowser like throw his RC controller, like tosses.
I think that's something that could be neat if they take the opportunity to do like a Nintendo take on the Auto Battler.
Ooh. I could be into that.
Yeah, that could be neat.
Mm-hmm.
And you just like instead of like, making a battlefield where like two parts are like fighting against like 7 other people or whatever, like you're just like upgrading a car in like various dimensions and the car races on its own.
Kind of like borrowing some of the ideas from like Banjo and Kazooie nuts and bolts.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe even a little like Diddy Kong Racing in there.
Especially if it's something which is like offered as multi-mode. If you've got something which is like multi-round deck building, and you also let me just like fuck with the car, that's a game I'm gonna dump hundreds of hours into that game.
See, like that's what Mario Kart Tour should have been, if you're asking me. But yeah, what do I know? I don't work for Nintendo.
Yeah. So these were my walk back onto the NES titles.
Oh my god, Brian's really gonna make me do 3 in a row. Whatever. This next game makes me sad. It's called Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles Remastered. It is a cult favorite that showed up on the Nintendo GameCube, which I had the opportunity to play, not because we were especially rich, but I happened to have 3 younger brothers. There were 4 of us in total that all had access to Game Boy Advances, and so buying the cables to plug in together was a neat bonding experience that our parents were into. Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles is an action RPG, as opposed to turn-based RPGs that they're famous for, where you are children of age from a village who go out into the world to collect myrrh, to feed your crystal so that it protects your village from the ongoing miasma that ravages the land. You go on a pilgrimage with your crystal, an amount of myrrh and a crystal. You travel through dungeons, collect items that you can bring home, and your parents, at the beginning you decide that they are proficient in a particular trade, and they are able to use the things that you bring back to aid you on your journey, whether that be seeds to plant for new vegetables or your favorite food, what have you, fishermen or, farmers, or they are, artisans like blacksmiths or alchemists or, I forget what the accessories that they make. And you are able to eventually uncover the secrets of the world. If you're careful and observant, undo the effects of the miasma on this world. But Remastered is something between Remastered and Reimagined, as we've discussed before. They definitely make significant changes based on the initial game, but they're not exactly for the better. While it was initially a couch co-op game where you could only play with people that are around you, you now have online play. And before it was initially locked to the GameCube, but is not only multi-platform, but cross-platform. So you could play on PS4, on mobile, on Nintendo Switch, and you could play with the 4 players and you could play online, but the shared community aspect of like building a village with your friends is no longer a thing that happens. Instead, each player that plays on their individual console essentially has access to the one person that they made in their village. And if you want to further populate your village, you have to make characters and level them yourself. And you are able to matchmake and like jump online with people. And the game is pretty proficient at that, but it also feels a bit jankier than I remember. And I'm not saying that the GameCube version was perfect, because it probably wasn't. But it definitely feels dated in the way that the game handles. It doesn't feel fluid or like mobile as it used to. That being said, like the world that you experience and like the characters that you interact with and the story that is hidden in this world are still deep and compelling, that ask interesting questions about the nature of memory and what we ask of those who protect us. But the way that it handles and other like quality of life things that are, staples of the genre now that didn't transfer over to this new iteration of the game make me question if it was ready to come out. And that makes me sad because I really love this fucking game.
Yeah, there was something that Jonathan Holmes said today about the re-release of the Scott Pilgrim Brawler. He was excited that people now had an opportunity to play this game on the reg, but that feeling was tempered by his feelings about Ubisoft. Mm-hmm. That, like, on one hand, like, hooray, people are getting to play this, but on the other hand, like, Ubisoft. And, like, I totally get that. I totally understand that. And I kind of feel like that applies to the situation. Like, there's a lot of heart and there's a lot of feeling that you have toward this game, but it kind of feels like there are some considerations that Squeenix made that kind of, like, strip away part of what made this game special.
And I feel like it was just one of those things that didn't end up being that much of a priority, which is fine because, like, Square Enix isn't hurting for hits this year. Like, they had Final Fantasy VII Remake, which is making its rounds in the award track. That's only going to print money for the next decade or whatever.
Right.
And they still have Final Fantasy XIV, which is arguably the most successful MMO in the market currently. Like, it's definitely outstripping, like, even World of Warcraft at this point. But this game has things to say about player interaction and combat, traversing a world and, like, being the heroes in, like, a world that may not actually need them. And I wish that I didn't have to dig through, like, janky controls to do it. I do appreciate some of the considerations that they made, but they do feel underpolished, which is kind of embarrassing at this point. I wish, like, things like the 3-hit combo didn't, like, feel as jerky as they were in this particular iteration. It doesn't make the game anywhere near unplayable. It's definitely just serviceable. And between the way that you can't, just, like, continuously explore the world with, like, a party on the internet, pre-made or no, or, like, the idea that, like, you can't really share the benefits of, like, your continued clears together because you're all stuck in individual villages. Like, there's no way to, like, communicate that kind of stuff. Like, even if they, like, implemented something like, trade routes or whatever, where, like, you still had, like, your own individual town, but you could still interface with, like, the parents of other towns based on the people you were playing with. Even, like, the sheer simple thing where if you complete a dungeon together, only the person that initiated the quest gets, like, the myrrh and is able to continue along the story. And everyone else is just kind of like, oh, you got to run it, like, in your own party, get fucked. Like, That's just dumb. Like, why didn't they fix that? And there's just, like, all these, like, weird, goofy, tiny roadblocks that, like, detract from the experience, which at its core is a really compelling and interesting game. I can't even really blame the team, because it's also one of those things where there's just this one guy who really loved the game that wasn't even a part of the initial team that, like, wanted to take on this project and, like, convinced Square Enix that he could do it. And they, like, basically gave him a shoestring budget and, like, they put something out, which is a feat in and of itself. But it's just, like, this game did not deserve this, like, disdain from Square Enix. It wasn't necessary. Even if you looked at it and said, this is what you have, let's delay it a year. Just take a break. We'll extend the budget or whatever. Or even, like, maybe the choice that they had was, like, put it out or shelve it. I wasn't in those meetings. I'm not going to speculate. But I knew that this game deserved better. And I'm upset that this is what it got.
Yeah, man. I think if CD Projekt Red put anything into stark focus this year, it's that, like, in virtually every situation, never blame the devs. Blame the guys who are like, hey, how much money can we make?
Right.
Yeah. We want the money for this to land on this year. No thanks. No thanks. Yeah. Do better.
I mean, hopefully it gets polished over time, but, like, there isn't a lot of hope of that happening. They've done some updates that clean up some things, but it's not. I feel like they need something more akin to an overhaul, and, like, they're not there. That's not what's going to happen. The penultimate game on my list is Apex Legends, which is a battle royale shooter, which is normally outside my comfort zone and something that I don't spend a lot of time with. I spent a lot of time with Apex Legends, and I like it because not only does the game feel good and have interesting, compelling characters, I think over time its support has shaped it into a game that is unique in not only the shooter genre, but the battle royale genre.
Mm-hmm.
It is a hero shooter, and it does have a much slower like update pace than say things like Fortnite or even like Warzone. So like there's a bit more time to get used to what's going on instead of like everything exploding around you at all times. But the way that they introduce and develop characters, or like their heroes or whatever, legends as they call them,
Mm-hmm.
is that the characters' kits aren't designed to function alone. There are a few more battle modes now, but initially the only battle mode was that you drop in with 3 people. There weren't solos. Now there's duos, but like when there's duos, like everyone's in duos, and it's the same thing. The idea is that like you're not meant to play this game alone and go off on your own. You're supposed to play on a team. And the way that the characters are built is that their abilities not necessarily have like just synergy with other players, which is a thing that has been achieved over time, but they are designed to be supportive as a rule. That whenever you have an ability, for the most part, your ability is designed to help other people. There are even characters that like play just fine in solo situations, like Wraith, who has a button that basically makes her incorporeal for a time so she can reposition and escape. Or Octane, who has a button that makes it so that he can run faster and scoot around the map. But like every single character's like ultimate ability has some utility that's supposed to like interact with your teammates. Like a great example is Gibraltar, who's like our big, like, I think he's actually Maui. He might be Samoan. I don't remember. But his abilities, which are like a dome shield and a mortar that fires in a circular area, what you can do is protect yourself from gunfire by dropping the drop shield. And you can even confirm kills with the AoE, but like probably the most optimal use of his kit is when you need a bit of time to think. Like if you've been surrounded or jumped or whatever, and you throw down the mortar and then you throw your dome shield, which will protect you from the mortars, and now your team has about 15 seconds to piece together what they're going to do next. Or like characters like Pathfinder, who have a zip line that allows them to zip around like Spider-Man. His ultimate basically places down a zip line that your teammates can use. And so like, while you can use that to put yourself in a better position, the optimal use of it is to create a situation where your party can use the zipline effectively. And the whole game's like design based on the characters that they put in your hand, even like the goofy edgelord ones, are designed to make you interact with your team or create ways that your team can collectively be more successful. And I like that a lot, and that's why I've been interacting with it for so long, because it's one of the few shooters that make me want to play with other people.
That is a strong argument.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very strong argument. Yeah, like that. I mean, that's one of the things that like really pushed me away from so many of those things.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like hell, even the thing that like made Apex notable early in its life was like this game wants you to interact with the other people that you're playing with, but it doesn't necessarily require you to talk with the other people that you're playing with.
Right. Like its ping system, which is still like pretty fucking revolutionary.
Oh, yeah.
To the point where like almost everyone copied it.
It did not take long for it to show up in Fortnite.
Yeah.
I think that's one with enough like coaxing and sweet talk, Rocky, you could get me back in there, because like I do love those guys know how to make a shooter.
Oh yeah.
Those are the shooter guys.
Respawn definitely, they're doing something right over there.
Like Titanfall feels good, man. Like it, yeah. Like we did not yet have a show during like the heydays of Titanfall.
Nope, pre-impossible coin.
I logged some fucking time in Titanfall. I really did. Yeah, it just felt good. Every time you called your Titan and it landed on the guy who was giving you trouble, felt like magic. Every time there was a guy who thought he had found himself an impossible to reach sniper point and he was just sitting up there like causing trouble, and you're like, well, sir, you had to get up there.
So that means I can too. Yeah.
Yeah, it felt good. The wall running always felt good. They're the guys who made Call of Duty 4. You know, like these are the fellas that fundamentally change shooters. If there's going to be people who make playing with other people fun, it's going to be these guys. If they can't do it, then nobody can. I just talked myself back into playing fucking Apex Legends.
I mean, me and my friend Oscar played with Stu, like I think on Christmas. It was pretty fun. It was a good time.
Yeah. I suppose I should talk about a video game.
No, hold on. 3 in a row. Last one. This is my last game. Last game I played that I'm going to talk about this year is Bug Fables. I mentioned it before. I was talking about Paper Mario because Bug Fables is the spiritual successor to Paper Mario Thousand Year Door. It firmly iterates on the idea while clearly trying to create something new. It is still a paper-ish turn-based RPG, except you all are bugs. You are a horn beetle, a bee, and I believe a cricket. You are trying to be adventurers in this place called Bulgaria or whatever. But you have 3 party members. They all have equal claim to protagonists. They're all like equally developed over time. And that allows them to go in a lot more depth as opposed to Paper Mario, where like you spend a little time with a partner and then you move on to the next one. Like the story's about these 3 bugs. And there are all sorts of weird, wacky mini-game bullshit on the side. Like you have like a mini Hearthstone that you can play in the background. And the cards are the various monsters and enemies that you fight over the course of the game. And like you get their card by like scanning their HP, which is also useful when you're trying to learn how to fight things. You also have various items that, as part of the story, improve your kits. Like Vi gets boomerang, makes it really powerful. You have a badge system that is robust and lends itself to many different styles of play, some of which that can deal incredible damage or make you unkillable, which are really cool. There are boss fights that are part of the story, and there are bonus boss fights just to see how tough you are. There are all sorts of side quests and stories to uncover, like saving the local musical theater or finding the one block of ice in an endless desert. And it's also kind of like a microcosm of like the world. I think at one point you end up inside of like a refrigerator in someone's home where you find the secret roach civilization that have sacred technology and the everlasting sapling. You learn that certain characters were not only like born as bugs, but created in a lab that was like killed at some point and like revived through ancient magic. And now they are able to cast frost magic as part of their blessing, but what appears to be some weird GMO plant god. It is interesting and weird and deep, which is like all the great parts of Paper Mario. And it apes the art style for sure, but it's definitely something that is made for the modern day. It doesn't feel dated. It feels fresh and interesting, and may be part of an emerging genre of these like paper-like RPGs, which appear to be expanding in 2020 and beyond. I'm excited for it, and also the future, especially now that Paper Mario is able to develop its own flavor of gameplay without being tied to the shackles of the past.
That sounds like a good incentive to boot up the $25 video game that I have purchased and never played. The Paper Mario people, and I think you know what I mean by the Paper Mario people.
Yeah, dude, I'm in Paper Mario hell. I know what that's about.
All right, I'll revise. The Thousand Year Door people.
I also know them, yeah.
Yeah. Who, like, when you talk to them, like, it's very, very clear once you get them going that they have no interest in the series iterating.
Yeah. The sad part about it is that they're kind of right. They're dicks about it, but they're kind of right.
It sounds like, while respectful and loving toward its inspiration, there is like a significant component of Bug Fables which is iterative and is making different choices, and that I think is what's interesting to me. Like, it could very easily have just been a thing that like showed up at a party, been like, "Hello guys, I'm Thousand Years Door wearing a mask."
Right.
But it does not sound like it's doing that.
Yeah. It is not. They're really people that love what Thousand Year Door did, but decided to grow in the direction that people have been craving for a very long time.
That's cool. That's cool. That is an entirely different way to approach like loving the past. I like that. Another way you can love the past is by throwing yourself headlong into it and playing an old video game like Earthbound.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Earthbound has really been, for me, the game I have spent the most time with on my RG351P.
For sure.
And it has definitely kind of been the thing that has identified my RG351P as a staple for my nightside table. And also kind of like, I think, called out the size of the Switch as a portable device. It's fucking big. The Switch is big. You know?
Okay.
I'm very, very comfortable with the small form factor of the RG351P. Like, if I pick it up with one hand, I don't think that there's like an off chance that I'm going to like break it somehow. There are things I would like to do with a Switch, which I never do with a Switch because I'm convinced I'll break something. A good example is if it's like, say, sitting on the coffee table facing me, with a Joy-Con facing me, if it was all one contiguous form factor, if it was all one single piece of tech, I would feel comfortable picking it up by the side that faces me, but I'm worried that a Joy-Con is going to snap off a rail. And so there's like leaning further forward so that way I could pick it up by the middle. I have enjoyed now like decades of sturdy handhelds. Even though like the 3DS is a thing that folds in half, it still feels sturdy. The Vita felt sturdy. I like handhelds that don't feel like I'm going to break them by touching them. And as like we've experienced over the course of the years, like worsening stick drift on the Switch, people who use only a single set of Joy-Cons, and so they're like taking their Joy-Cons on and off the console with some frequency because they don't have a second set that they just used for docked.
For sure.
Those folks are starting to report that like nubs are starting to wear down on the catches and that the Joy-Cons don't lock anymore. And the Earthbound for me was like a chance to play a game in a handheld form factor and not really worry about the device. I want to like just chill in bed and play a fucking video game. And I want to play a video game that like I love. So like running through Earthbound again was that thing. Smash TV, NBA Jam, Mortal Kombat, Linus Spacehead's Cosmic Adventure, Super Robin Hood, RC Pro-Am. These are all things I played on my RG351P. I enjoyed that feeling of just like being able to like, nestle up and not really worry about the device and focus on the game. And every time I'm holding my Switch, I'm just afraid it's going to like crumble into dust or something, like when Maxwell Lord has the wishing stone in Wonder Woman 1984, just like it fades out of existence. I just think there's things about the form factor, the way it's weighted, the way it's balanced, that make it harder to concentrate. When the game is in handheld, when the console is in handheld mode, which is probably why I spent so much less time with Super Mario Maker 2, even though I spent as much time with Mario Maker 1 as I spent with Hitman. Because I never once thought that the Wii U gamepad was going to, like, come apart in my hand. Or was in danger just by being held by me. And that is, I think, something which is, like, fundamental to the experience of handheld gaming. If you can't focus on the game that you're playing while you're playing in handheld, it takes away from the experience. And so, like, Earthbound was the thing I used to kind of, like, take the system through its paces. And just be like, okay, like, am I able to get lost in the game when I play it here? And the answer was fundamentally yes. I had fun beating up the sharks again. I had fun wandering around with a teddy bear behind me so that it could take hits in combat. And, like, in the context of the thing that I enjoyed most about this playthrough of Earthbound was I am reminded that Earthbound is a game that within its first 2 hours lets you beat up a room full of cops. And God bless you for it.
It really does. Holy shit.
Yeah. That's how you get out of one it, for you Philistines out there. Oh, net. But that's how you get out. You beat up a room full of fucking cops. That's great. And the cops of that town are portrayed as, like, useless dickheads.
Yeah.
And I fucking love it. Because, especially in the context of, like, where the culture was in 1996, that feels very, very subversive. And there's so much about, like, the way the game, like, uses music. Where you're like, oh, these are obviously the Blues Brothers. Like, the game is very, very cheeky in the way it, like, views what it calls American culture. And, like, I dig that. The choices that were made for localization are still super fun and super goofy. Like, working within the constraints of the choices they had to make. Like, oh, okay, whatever we translate that to can't be any more characters than the original text was. What do we do in those situations? There's like an inelegance and a roughness that kind of led to a silliness, and I still like it. I still like it a lot. The enemy design is great. Playing this game kind of reminds you about this whole genre that's like kind of cropped up since then of I want to call them like quirky RPGs or outsider RPGs, like like kind of like the strange kid games like Undertale,
right?
Because those have definitely become a genre up to themselves with like stuff like Knights and Bicycles and all manner of shit. Like Boot Hill Heroes. I guess like looking back on the rest of the old games I played this year, I would not mind if that same kind of like genre revival unto itself happened for some of those. If somebody told me tomorrow Brian NBA Jam is now a genre, or Brian Smash TV is now a genre, or Brian RC Pro-Am is now a genre, I'd be very excited because I would not mind playing several of all of those games and seeing how various different people iterated on the things that made them great.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess part of my takeaway is that it's okay to want to iterate on one old game that people love because you're going to bring a different perspective to it than the other people who are making games based on that one old game that you all love. No one is ever going to accuse Knights and Bikes of being Undertale, etc. Get out there. There's room in the market for some of that stuff.
True.
And holy shit, we actually played a lot of games this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of wish I had made time for Iconfell. I am looking forward to Knuckle Sandwich, though.
Yeah. See, like, there it is. Like, I'm super hyped for Knuckle Sandwich.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that this brings us to the end of our Resident games.
Those are the end of our Resident games.
Man.
Everyone, this has been our show. It's called Impossible Coin. We do it every week. You can find us wherever podcasts are found. Most of our stuff's on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, and SoundCloud, guys.
Fuck SoundCloud. Fuck it.
Fuck SoundCloud.
Speaking of SoundCloud, the music at the beginning and end of this podcast were produced by our friend Big Sach. You can find his work at SoundCloud at soundcloud.com/BigSachNJ, and maybe drop him a line on Twitter at Hillary_Swank. Our logo is also a t-shirt. It was designed by Lauren Moran. You can find her on Twitter at Lauren Moran, and consider donating to her Patreon because she does the good work. She does way better stuff than we have any business being able to see. Speaking of Patreon, we have one of those too. It's patreon.com/ImpossibleCoinPodcast. You may also find one that's /ImpossibleCoin. That is also ours, but we're not using it. Please understand. And if you want to talk to us about it, we are available. You can find us on social media. I'm on Facebook and Instagram. Brian's on Twitter. Tegan's on Tumblr. It's all Impossible Coin. No weird underscores or dashes or X's or anything weird like that. In fact, if you do see one of those, we may not know about them. Please let us know, and we will definitely take care of it.
Yep.
And I think that's all of it. Brian, any remarks?
Well, I don't want to say that, like, after, a day of recording, and, like, I'm pretty tired. I've been recording now we've been recording for, and so I'm going to probably sit down with a nice glass of wine and unwind. And what's cool is I made the wine myself, and so there's a certain measure of accomplishment to that. And if you wanted to try winemaking at home, then get at it. It's easier than you think. What they say, like, fail fast, succeed faster. So, like, try our friends with Bruisey. And you can get 15% off by letting them know that Impossible Coin sent you. Just use bruisey.refr.cc/Impossible Coin for 15% off of your order. And you know what? We appreciate that. Get at it. But man, I hope everybody is enjoying Game of the Year this year. Format's a little bit different. We'd love to hear some feedback on the new style as it unfolds. And I just want to eat my meatloaf. But I think on that note, peace.